We are back live. They haven't kicked off anything in the court yet, so you're not missing anything. Probably are going to start in the next 10 minutes or so. They start right at the top of the hour, but you'll be there as soon as they kick back off. A crazy morning, and let me just say this. Kudos to the boys for keeping this thing going as long as they have. I really anticipated a very short preliminary hearing, but was this another recess? Yes, this is just a lunch break. So they went on lunch break a little over almost an hour ago. They left for lunch early and decided to take a break, and so they're going to be back here at probably 1 o'clock is when they're going to actually kick off the proceedings. If you're just joining and you missed the first half, you can check it out on Dad with the Phone on Facebook, or I will be running a premiere of it actually simultaneously. I'll be running a premiere simultaneous to this hearing on Dad with the Phone on YouTube, so you can check out that first one here. Not a ton of stuff, in my opinion, to really go over, other than the cop laid a really good foundation in the fact that they pretty much said, we found. Nope, I'm in the middle of a live video right now.
But the internet's not working.
It is working. It is working. Ask your brother to help.
He's not in his room.
What's not working at the internet?
I can't get it to the show.
Can you watch the show on the big screen?
I don't know the controllers.
I got you my phone.
Mm-hmm.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
And I'm also a dad with real kids who interrupt my live videos on the regular and tell me to shut up. So anyway, the first appearance today, first witness today in this preliminary hearing, pretty much sealed the deal. Hey, you got probable cause to arrest this dude, all right, on some charges. And the fact that they have a bodies, I didn't like hearing about that. I'm going to be honest with you. Could you have left out the details? Because that had to have my heart, I feel like, was connected to the grandparents in the room, and I did have to tune some of it out because I don't need to listen to it. I don't need to hear those details. You can fry this dude on the amount of evidence you've already given me, in my opinion. And so, shut my door all the way. So when it comes to the details, I don't need to listen to all that stuff. Why were his defense so interested in who the cops? Well, because they haven't been given all the discovery yet, maybe. And, it's not so much that they're interested in who they have spoken to as much as they want to know, okay, well, I know why he was asking all those recordings. He wants to make sure he has all the recordings. He wants to make sure to see who has talked to the cops, because I think there might be, there's obviously other people involved when it comes to Lori and Alex, but I think when it comes to the other family members and the other people he's speaking with, or the other people the cops spoke to, is to kind of show a foundation of he spoke with a lot of people. The defense wants to know what those people said, And if there's video footage of it, they for sure want to know what they've said and done with. So I look at it in the sense of the defense attorney's doing his best to bring into question, are you sure this is what Chad Daybell said to you? Are you sure your memory is as good? I saw that happening a little bit. Hey, are you sure you know what he said? Are you sure that you can remember that good? Did you have a recording of this? Because if you have a recording, then it's kind of indisputable. But now, because you don't have a recording of the conversation you had with my client, there's all these little back and forths they could go all day with. And so if you're wanting to see captions, the best I can tell you is to check out the captions on Facebook. The second part of this preliminary hearing has not kicked off yet. They are at lunch break. And as soon as they kick off the second hearing, we're going to roll right into it. I ain't trying to talk all day. I'm actually really interested to see these other, I think they're going to call another cop. There's going to be a complete, I guess he gets to redirect this witness a little bit and talk to this witness a little bit more. And then I think they're actually going to call some more witnesses. It'll be interesting to see. I figured they would use the cops. I figured they would not call in any particular people as far as the witnesses that have spoken up, people who have done interviews, people who've talked about Chad and Lori and their cult stuff. If they're going to call any of those witnesses, it will be at the trial. The preliminary hearing, they only need to have probable cause. They're only having to show probable cause. So the probable cause is all they have to show in this hearing, which I think they've done. I think they've already done it. I don't know if they're going to hammer it. It sounds like to me they're gonna milk this for as much as they can. Some people think this preliminary hearing is going to go into tomorrow. I don't necessarily share that sentiment, but it is definitely going to run a couple more hours, especially if they're going to bring in more witnesses. The cop did a good job of laying most of the foundation of how they got involved in investigating the disappearance, the missing persons. He laid out, okay, this is how we got into this case. And we were led to the house. We got a search warrant obtained for the house. He talked about Chad Daybell basically staring at the gravesite. And then the dogs hit on the gravesite. And I'm not 100% sure that that's the only evidence that led them there, or if they had another tip that led them back to the house, because they had been at the house before. They had checked the house before. So the fact that they came back the second time and ended up arresting him it's just interesting to me that then they didn't really say, hey, we had a tip come in that said go back to the house, or we had a specific person. That doesn't mean they're not going to get there. It just means they haven't got there yet. The Alex pings sent them back to the house. They definitely had the cell phone pings, which is, again, what they had initially stated in their press conference that led them there. So no, I understand the cell phone pings. I just wanted to, and that's could be the target of why they targeted the area they did, because they even talk about the cell phone pings were in the target. They didn't talk about that today very much, because they're not here about Alex's cell phone. They're here about Chad Daybell. So This was Chad Daybell's property. So I don't know that they're going to point at Alex a lot, but they definitely, the defense is going to point at Alex. I don't know if the prosecution, how much they're going to put into, how much they're going to play into Alex's role, how much information they have on that. But the cell phone pings, the dog, and the stare from Chad is kind of what we've gathered to be the triggering information on why they searched. The chess game, for sure, it's a long game. This attorney is definitely playing the long game. He's going to wear these witnesses out. These witnesses are going to be worn out. The family's going to be worn out. We're going to be worn out. It's going to be emotionally draining. It's going to be an incredible emotional, it's going to be an emotionally draining court. Looks like we're going to get kicked off here. It looks like the cameraman's got himself back up in the room, and we should get going here shortly. If you're just joining, we're watching the second part live on Dad with the Phone of the Chad Daybell preliminary hearing. This thing ran for 2+ hours. I think Lori's is on the 10th or the 8th. Hers is like the 10th or the 8th. Her first hearing, and that one will be televised as well. I don't know if they're showing this on I'm ripping this feed directly from the judge's website. I don't know who's initially doing the feed from the courtroom. I'm pulling straight from the judge's courtroom. Will this be available to watch later too on your page? Absolutely. It'll be on Dad with a Phone. Both. If you haven't already watched the preliminary hearing from the part 1, you'll be able to check that out on Dad with the Phone YouTube. It's actually going to be premiering here shortly. They got me off my live privileges right now on Dad with the Phone, so we will be premiering stuff on Dad with the Phone later today on YouTube. Part 1. Right now, though, the preliminary hearing should get going any minute. The judge is a little late from lunch. I'm actually premiering a video on my YouTube right now from part 1. We will have part 2 up as soon as it's available. What you got? Yep, part 1's going up on YouTube. Part 1 is already up on Facebook. You can find it on Dad with a Phone. The Woodland Park Underground on YouTube right now. Boom. So that's uploading. Be about 5 minutes. It'll be there. We're going to kick off this hearing. Come on, Judge. You on time today or am I early? We're always early. Oh, you got 1 minute. Looks like they're going to kick it off at 1 minute. I'm going to be right on time. I think Chad is. Does anyone else think Chad's acting like an arrogant prick? I don't think we're going to like Chad at all. during this trial. I don't think we're gonna like the attorney at all during this trial. I promise it's not the COVID. All right. I'm going to believe they're going to kick this thing off, and I'm going to take a quick break. Thanks for joining Dad with a Phone. We'll be live throughout this entire time. You can find it live on all my YouTubes and all my other stuff. Hey, take this moment right now and hit share. Go share it in your favorite Facebook true crime group. Let's get this party started. I was really liking their punctuality. Their technology's been good. We haven't had too many dropouts, but these attorneys, they're probably having to get Chad back up in the courtroom, back from his. He might be actually. Nah, this isn't a jury trial, so he's probably not walking around the courthouse free, but he is probably. It looks like he's handcuff free, shackle free. It was interesting during the Patrick Frazee case, not during his preliminary hearing, I think, but definitely during his trial. Patrick got to walk around the courthouse, use the restroom, no handcuffs, wasn't going to be seen in front of the jury with no handcuffs. You got to remember, this is a magistrate court, too. This is not the same. It may or may not be the same judge. So this judge will probably be this case will be transferred over to district court. What we're seeing today is the preliminary hearing. Do they have enough probable cause to take Chad Daybell to trial? That's what we're listening to. You know, a judge has already looked at this stuff and ruled on probable cause for a search warrant, and it's really the same burden of proof. A search warrant, probable cause to arrest, probable cause to do. It's kind of the same burden of proof. And so the burden of proof isn't reasonable doubt today. It is simply probable cause to then, okay, we have enough probable cause to take this man to trial for the charges in which we have charged him with. And so this will be transferred over to district court, and we may get a new judge who says no cameras. It's very likely, it could very easily get a judge who says we're not going to allow cameras. It sounded like everybody was pretty professional today, except one of the camera guys almost ended up getting shut down pretty quick because his shutter was left on. So the digital cameras, they add the shutter noise, and this dude didn't turn off his shutter noise. Amateur move a little bit. They are taking their time getting back to court. We're just going to double check the feed, make sure we ain't frozen, make sure we're still live, looking good. But all we're seeing is the seal of the great seal of the state of Idaho. Biggest surprise out of this morning. How detailed. I didn't want to hear details. I did not want to hear about the babies being wrapped in plastic, being partially burned. I didn't want to hear about that. Sorry. That is not what I wanted to hear this morning. I think that was probably the biggest killer shock of the morning was just the details of discovering the bodies. It just isn't a pretty sight. And so, yeah, Chad may have said, we got to stop this. Take me back to my cell. I need to hit the portal. There's all kind of, Chad could be getting sick in the bathroom. Oh, here we go. Looks like we got Chad Daybell coming in. Look at that fatso. He's gained a little bit of weight, in my opinion. Little doughboy. Dibbity doughboy. Yeah, doughboy. Take a seat. How you feeling? You feeling all right? You feeling good? All right. Let's get this show on the road.
Thank you. Please be seated. We're going to be back on the record here in Fremont County, Idaho. It's the 3rd of August, 2020. It's just after 1 o'clock. CR 2220-755, State versus Daybell, excuse me. We will continue forward. We're in the middle of the witness, Detective Hermosillo. The cross-examination of detective had just completed. We're to the redirect. We'll have Detective Hermosillo come back to the witness stand. He's still under oath.
Your Honor, the state has no further questions for Detective Hermosillo.
Okay. Detective Hermosillo, you don't need to come back up here then. Next witness, Mr. Wood.
The state calls Ron Ball.
Detective Ball, if you'll stand here in front of the plexiglass at the witness stand and raise your right arm, face the clerk.
You solemnly swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this cause now pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Detective Ball will have you sit right here at the witness stand. Once you've been seated, you can remove your mask. Detective Ball, if you'll pull that microphone up and aim it up towards your chin.
This one?
Yep. Okay. Pull it down just a little bit. There you go. Mr. Woods, you may inquire when you're ready.
Thank you. Will you please state your name and spell it for the record?
My name is Ron Ball, B-A-L-L.
Where are you currently employed?
I'm currently employed at the Rexburg Police Department.
How long have you been employed there?
I've been employed there for a little over 28 years.
What is your current title?
My current title is I'm the lieutenant over investigations.
Okay. Have you completed the post academy?
I have. I hold a basic, intermediate, advanced, and a management certificate. Also, I am a graduate from the FBI National Academy 2015.
Okay. Detective, for your work at the Rexburg Police Department, were you involved in the investigation of the disappearance of JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan?
Yes,
Detective, were you present at Chad Daybell's residence on June 9th of 2019?
I was.
Okay, what were you there for?
We were there to conduct a search warrant at that residence.
Okay. Are you aware what, if anything, was discovered on his property?
I am.
What was it?
The remains of 2 bodies.
Okay. Do you know if those remains were sent to the Ada County Coroner's Office?
Yes.
How do you know that?
I was personally involved in taking them to Ada County,
Okay,
Ada County Coroner's Office.
okay. What day did you take those to the coroner's office?
We took the remains to the coroner's office on June 10th
Of what year?
of this year.
Okay, so 2020?
Yep.
Did you continue to work on this case on June 12th of
Correct.
2020? What did you do that day?
On that particular day, myself, Detective Ray Hermosillo, Detective Kakimanu from the Fremont County Sheriff's Office, and Fremont County Coroner Brenda Dye went back to the Ada County Coroner's Office, where we received and took in evidence that was the state lab had, or the coroner's office had retrieved from the bodies.
Okay. Were you involved in actually loading said evidence into the coroner's truck that day?
Yes,
Were you able to personally observe the evidence and or the packaging it was in?
yes.
Do you know who was in the coroner's truck?
The driver of the vehicle, of the coroner's truck, was Detective Kakimanu with Fremont County Sheriff's Office, and then Fremont County Coroner Brenda Dye was a passenger in the vehicle.
Okay. And where were you during the transportation of the evidence?
Myself and Detective Hermosillo were in another vehicle, traveling with them.
And did you ever lose sight of the coroner's truck?
No,
Did the coroner's truck ever stop prior to arriving at the state lab?
it may have stopped at some traffic lights, but that would have been the only stops.
Okay. Once you arrived at the state lab, what did you do?
Once we arrived at the state lab, we met with somebody outside, a representative from the state lab. We then took the property out of the back of the vehicle and then walked it inside the Idaho State Forensic Laboratory.
Okay. So were you personally involved in moving the property from the coroner's truck to the state lab?
Yes,
Were you able then to view the evidence and or the packaging it was in?
I did.
Was it in the same condition it was in when you loaded it into the coroner's truck from the Ada County Coroner's Office?
Yes.
Do you know generally the evidence you were involved in transporting?
It was quite a bit of biological evidence. There was some garbage bags. There was some duct tape. Quite a bit of it was biological samples.
And when you say biological evidence, what do you mean by that?
Swabs. There were fingernail clippings, fingernail swabs, and those type of things. Excuse me? Okay.
Once the evidence was taken into the state lab, what, if anything, did you do?
Once the evidence was placed in the state lab, or taken inside the state lab, I then went to a location with one of the property management people there. That evidence hadn't been checked into the Rexburg Police Department yet because I had just received it and we were still in Boise. So I had to sit down. I had to get my office on the phone. I talked to Sergeant Colette Davison with the Rexburg Police Department. I went piece by piece of it and described to her what that piece was. And she then entered it into the computer system back home, or back in Rexburg, and it was assigned a number. And then once I had that number, I then gave that to the representative from the Idaho Forensic Laboratory, and they then took custody of it.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd ask that the witness be handed State's Exhibit 11.
You've marked that, Mr. Wood?
I have.
Judge, could we approach for a minute?
You may, we're gonna go back in chambers, though. I think because the plexiglass, it requires the attorneys to speak so loudly that it's really hard to keep it silent. So we can go back in chambers, which is fine.
All right.
Looks like they got some top secret stuff they don't want us to know about. At least right now. There is, in my opinion, not a chance in a portal that Chad takes a stand. Yeah, I have, in my opinion, believe there's no way Chad Daybell utters one word on the record in court. You didn't miss much, Jerry. They just started establishing a little bit of foundation around who this witness is, how he played, what role he played, stuff like that. Well, Rhonda, the very easy reason for Chad Daybell not taking the stand is simply because as soon as you take the stand, you open yourself up for cross-examination. So although people say, get up and talk about your innocence, the thing is, innocent or guilty, you still may say something that incriminates you. And so very, 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 very seldom will you see someone in a case like this, a magnitude like this, open themselves up for cross-examination. I very highly doubt that Chad Daybell will take the stand in trial. The only reason Chad Daybell takes the stand, the only way I see it ever happening is if he's innocent. So if you believe he's innocent, then Chad should take the stand. That's the only way I see him ever doing it. Watching his lawyer today, there's not a chance in the world that lawyer is going to allow him. He's going to be strongly advised against taking the stand. I promise you that. Right now, if you're just joining, if you're just popping in, the reason why we're not watching it is because they're in a secret meeting in the judge's chambers. So as they get done discussing a little piece of evidence that they didn't want us to see, the easiest way for them to do it and not be on the record, not seen on the record, is to go back into the judge's chambers. That's where they're at now. So they'll be back shortly. It's just a sidebar. They're just having a little sidebar. Yeah, this is only on tampering with evidence hearing. Exactly. It's all about the tampering of evidence, but they opened it up to, and maybe the tampering with the deceased body, a deceased corpse, I think. I don't know if they're, so again, this is a probable cause hearing. That's why I am very surprised in how much information we are getting, but it also is a probable cause hearing that there are going to be new charges filed. People, you got to understand, somebody's getting charged with murder here, whether it be Chad Daybell or Lori Vallow or a combination of the both. Somebody is going to eventually get charged with murder and or something, because the world is not going to sit by and just let them skate with what we heard today. To bind up a child with duct tape, plastic bags over their heads, their mouth taped from ear to ear. To do all of this was probably at the direction of Chad Daybell. This is how we deal with zombies. They probably tortured that young baby. They may have performed some sort of sick, sadistic rituals. This is reminiscent of some stuff that's coming out in the news and through different media outlets about torturing children for the endorphins in the blood. You terrify a child. This is what happened to these children. These children were terrified when they died.
We'll be back on the record in State versus Daybell. Court took a brief recess to have a sidebar with counsel for the state and the defense. The issue has been resolved. It's my understanding. Mr. Wood, you may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd ask that Exhibit 11 be handed to the witness.
Exhibit 11 will be handed to the witness. Mr. Pryor, you've had a chance to review that now. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
Any objection to the admission of Exhibit 11?
Did you move for admission?
He did not.
I have not moved yet.
All right.
I
I'll
think I
let
have to
that.
establish a couple things, Your Honor.
That's fine.
Detective, do you have State's Exhibit 11 in your hand?
Yes,
Have you seen that document before?
I have.
And are you familiar with that document?
I am.
Can you look on page 2 and tell me if that document is signed under penalty of perjury?
It is.
And who does that document, what organization does that document purport to be from?
This document is from the Idaho State Police Forensic Services.
Your Honor, I'd move to admit State's Exhibit 11 into evidence for purposes of identity.
For purposes of identity, Judge, there's no objection.
It will be admitted for purposes of identity.
Your Honor, I'd ask that the defendant be handed what's been marked as State's Exhibit 12.
Mr. Wood, did you say the time?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Exhibit 12 will be handed to the witness.
Thank you. Detective, do you have Exhibit 5 in front of you? Or I apologize, Exhibit 12 in front of you?
I do.
Do you recognize that document?
Yes.
Have you had a chance to review it?
Yes.
What organization does that document purport to be from?
This is from the Idaho State Police Forensic Services.
Can you look on page 2 of that document and tell me if it is signed under penalty of perjury?
It is.
Your Honor, the state would move for State's Exhibit 12 to be entered into evidence pursuant to Rule 5.1 for
Mr. Pryor?
purposes of identity.
For identification purposes, Judge, there's no objection.
For identification purposes, it will be admitted. Exhibit 12.
Your Honor, the state would ask that State's Exhibit 13 be shown to the defense and then handed to the witness.
Exhibit 13 will be handed to the defense counsel. Exhibit 12 is being handed to the witness. Excuse me, Exhibit 13.
Detective, do you have State's Exhibit 13 in front of you?
I do.
Do you recognize that document?
Yes,
Have you seen it before?
yes.
Who does that document purport to be from?
It is from the Idaho State Police Forensic Services.
And can you look on page 2 of that document and tell me if it's signed under penalty of perjury?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, the state moves that State's Exhibit 13 be entered into evidence pursuant to Rule 5.1 for purposes of identity.
No objection, Judge.
Exhibit 13 will be admitted for purposes of identity.
Thank you. The state has no further questions for Detective Ball.
Cross-examination, Mr.
Judge.
Pryor.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you very much. Lieutenant Ball, the items that are referenced in the reports, the swabs and all of that, initially were those, thank you, were those items obtained by you? Did you do the swabs or was that someone else?
That was somebody else.
And those folks provided you with the property, is that correct?
Correct.
And can you just briefly describe how you were provided that property? Was it on site at Mr. Daybell's house or where?
Well, I guess I'm not sure which part you're talking about. Was
Well, let's
it
talk
at the
about-
lab or at the house?
The swabs that were obtained,
Okay,
okay? Those were done where?
they were done at the Ada County Coroner's Office.
Okay. Now, the other evidence that you made reference to, that you transported to the I believe the lab or to the coroners to be with the folks from Fremont County. Prior to that being transported, whose care and custody were those items in?
Be the county coroner.
Okay. So at some point, there was a transport originally from where the items were obtained to the county coroner. Were you part and parcel of that transport?
I did not transport those items personally. That was transported by Fremont County Coroner Brenda Dye and Detective Vince Kaikamanu.
The last name again?
Kaikamanu.
Mr. Wood, do you mind spelling Kayakamani for the record so that we can all have that clear for right now? Does anybody know spelling of that?
I can guess, but I don't know that I can spell it correctly.
It's KaaiaKamanu.
Thank you.
May I proceed, Judge?
You may.
Thank you, Your Honor. So at some point from the site, we're going to call him Detective K,
Okay.
and the coroner obtained the items from the site and took them to the coroner's office. And at some point, you went from the coroner's office to the,
Correct.
okay. And at all times from the initial obtaining those items, on what day did you obtain those items?
We would have obtained them items on the 12th of June,
And then on the 12th, you took those directly to the,
Idaho State Forensics Laboratory.
right, okay. And at no time did those items lose sight or at any
No.
time did you, right. No further questions, Judge. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pryor. Mr. Wood, any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, Detective Ball. You can be excused from the witness stand. Mr. Wood, can this witness be excused from the court?
Yes. No objection.
Okay. Court's going to take just a moment for cleaning of the witness stand.
Can you believe this dude? Little smirky smirk.
Thank you. Mr. Wood, you may call your next witness.
State calls David Stubbs.
Hey, Doughboy. Hey, Doughboy, you gonna
Can I get
watch
Mr.
this when
Stubbs'
you're
title,
in
please?
freaking jail?
Detective.
Thank you.
All right, I'm not gonna do it, but I really would like to commentate when he freaking starts smiling. You guys are doing good in chat to keep it fairly clean. Hey, little, what are you're
Mr.
conversing
Wood,
with
is
your
that an
attorney?
exhibit that's on the easel necessary for right now, or can we move that out of the way?
Your Honor, we can move it out of the way.
Why don't we just set it up against the wall, facing the wall for right now, to give a little bit of room? Detective Stubbs, if you'll stand here in front of the plexiglass, raise your right arm and face the clerk.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause now pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Detective Stubbs, you can have a seat right here at the witness stand. Once you enter this cubicle, we'll allow you to remove your mask. Thank you. If you'll pull that microphone down a little bit and aim it up towards your chin, we're keeping a record. Mr. Wood, you may inquire when you're ready.
Thank you. Detective, can you state your name and spell it for the record?
David Stubbs, last name Stubbs.
Thank you. What is your occupation?
I am a police detective sergeant with the detective division for the Rexburg Police Department.
How many years have you been a detective?
Detective since the year 2000.
And how long have you been a police officer? Or how long have you worked for the Rexburg Police?
Approximately 25 years.
And are you post-certified?
Correct.
All right. Do you hold any certificates of training in electronic forensics?
I do. I'm certified as a operator and analyst in the Celebrite systems. Also have certificates in access data systems. I do have training in multiple other data systems as well.
Are you a part of the Idaho Crimes Against Children unit?
I am part of the State of Idaho Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, yes.
Thank you. How did you become involved in the investigation regarding the search for J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan?
I first became involved with Detective Hermosillo in reference to locating a vehicle that was in interest to Arizona police. Later, I became involved after a complaint was put in for a welfare check on juvenile J.J. Vallow.
Okay. Have you ever met the defendant, Chad Daybell?
I have.
Okay. Where did you meet him?
I met him when we issued the search warrant for his property in his kitchen.
Okay. Have you ever met the defendant, Lori Vallow?
I have.
Judge, could I have some foundation on the date, time, and place? They gave us the place, but the date and time would be helpful.
I'll lay that foundation. What date, you referenced the meeting defendant Daybell. What date did you meet him?
I don't recall the exact date. It was the date of the search warrant service.
Which search warrant are you referring to?
The search warrant where we searched the property, the Daybell property.
Right. Does June 9 sound like it might be that
June
day
9th would be correct.
of 2020? And what time of the day did you meet him?
We knocked on the door and entered the residence around 7 a.m.
Okay. Have you met the defendant, Lori Vallow?
I have.
Do you know the approximate date of when you met Lori Vallow?
That would have been November 26th, 2019.
Do you know approximately what time of day you met her?
It was in the AM.
Where did you meet her?
565 Pioneer Road, apartment number 175.
Was anyone else with you when you met her?
Yes, I was accompanied by Lieutenant Ron Ball and later was joined by Sergeant Kellen Wetton.
Okay. And what was the purpose of you meeting her that day?
We were trying to perform a welfare check of the welfare of JJ Vallow.
Okay. Were you wearing a body camera that day?
I was.
Okay. And did your body camera record your meeting with Lori Vallow?
Yes, it did.
How many times did you speak with Lori Vallow that day?
2 different occasions that morning.
And generally speaking, what did you ask her?
Our focus was to inquire on the welfare or the location of JJ Vallow and make sure he was okay.
Your Honor, we'd ask that the witness, that states Exhibit 14, be shown to the defense and then handed to the witness.
The bailiff will hand Exhibit 14 to the defense. The bailiff has handed Exhibit 14 to the defendant, or the witness.
Detective, do you recognize states Exhibit 14?
I do.
Have you, what is it?
It is the recordings from my body camera. There's 2 different recordings on this from the 26th of November 2019.
Okay. And have you reviewed the contents on that disc?
I have.
Are they true? Are the contents of that disc a true and accurate representation of what you saw that day?
They are.
And is it a true and accurate representation of, to the best of your knowledge, of what your body cam recorded?
Yes.
Your Honor, the state would ask that State's Exhibit 14 be entered into evidence.
Mr. Pryor,
If I may inquire in aid of objection,
you may.
can you give me an idea, officer, as to when you reviewed that for its accuracy on a date and time?
Can you speak a little louder?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Will you
Can
pull that
tell me
microphone
What date
clo-
and time did you review that to ensure that there was an accurate copy of what transpired on your interview with Ms. Vallow?
The last time I reviewed this was this morning.
Okay, all right. No further questions, Judge. Thank you.
All right. Any objection to the admission of Exhibit 14, Mr.
No
Pryor?
objection, Judge. Thank you.
Exhibit 14 will be admitted.
Your Honor, we'd ask that this be placed into the DVD player.
You wish to publish it right now?
Yes, we wish that the state moves to publish it, Your Honor.
We'll have the bailiff or whoever's in charge of IT put that into the player. I'll remind the media that pursuant to my earlier ruling, I'm going to prohibit the photographs or the videotaping of the publishing of this video here in court.
Interesting that they aren't allowing this information out to the public, even though the public has a right to an open court. In other words, this is the only way we can
Court will be
view
at ease for a moment while this is loading. Mr. Wood, take all the time you need.
Thank you.
the fact that they're not allowing us to see this in a sense is a violation of our open court rights. I understand why he's not doing it and the reasoning behind it, but because it's being played in open court makes it open record. So even though it doesn't have to be, they don't have to give us the digital file, or they don't have to release the digital file of it, they should still play it for the public because it's being played in open court. The reasoning behind them televising this court hearing is because of COVID and because of the limited amount of people that can be in the courtroom, and yet they're going to block the video. I understand why they're doing it. It's just like they're not allowing the evidence to be shown to the public, except if you're going to show a video in open court, it becomes court record. So I'm back and forth. I'm back and forth on it. I don't know. I think they should definitely allow the video to be shown. I'm loving y'all's comments. I promise it's not the COVID. It could be, though. I may have just given you all COVID. I'm kidding.
You may. Please don your mask. Mr. Wood, do you need a brief recess so you can troubleshoot the technology here?
We may need to. We came in to test this the other day and it worked just fine. So we might need just a second, Your Honor.
We'll be in recess for a moment.
Judge, can Mr. Daybell and I be excused to go in the hall to discuss some matters?
That's fine.
Thank you, Your Honor.
It's interesting to me. They're loading the videos, so they're loading the video, taking a little recess. Golly, they're gonna stretch this. This thing's gonna stretch out all day. They're going to stretch this preliminary hearing out all day, which is not normal. Normal scenarios. Here's the probable cause for the arrest. We're going to give you discovery now. Then he's going to have a chance to plead guilty or not guilty. See, at this time, I don't even know that he has full discovery on everything, because these body cams, that's what they're about to watch, is this body camera footage, I'm pretty sure. And it's going to be interesting. I doubt we'll get audio. I bet they cut the audio feed when we go to the video. They're not going to allow that to get out. I don't know why. I don't know why not, though, because they're showing it. I understand every little document and autopsy and stuff like that. They don't want to release that to the public because it could taint the jury pool, right? The video could taint the jury pool, but you're showing it in open court. The argument for televising this thing was because you can't have an open court because of COVID. And so you should at least show everything that you show in the court. So if there's a piece of evidence that the open court people could see, like a video or an audio recording or pictures that you're going to put up on a projector, all of those things, in my opinion, and my opinion is just simply that of a dad with a phone, is that is open court. That is the definition of we have a right to an open court. You know, if everyone or if the public was allowed to fill the courtroom right now, I have no doubt that the courtroom would be full of people who could see that evidence, right? Now, I know they're trying to limit the number of eyes and ears on the evidence to not taint the jury pool, but a jury pool being tainted is very, very unlikely, no matter how big of a case is. I'm telling you, no matter how big of a case is, it's very unlikely that they move jurisdictions, move venues based solely on a jury being tainted. The majority of the time, they move cases and trials to different jurisdictions is because of not getting a fair trial. He can't get a fair trial in this place, and that's just not going to be the case. I just don't know why he won't show the video. I understand. I just want to see this body camera footage. It might get released later. Sometimes the media outlets will subpoena or Public Information Act these body camera footage once it's been released in open court. And so there is a possibility on that. Thanks for joining here. There's a lot of people streaming this. I got notifications from a few different YouTubers who are streaming, obviously, this case that has captivated most of the true crime society online. So thanks for joining. I'm glad that they're streaming it. You know, this is kind of a silver lining when it comes to COVID, the new technologies that they're having to use to try and allow people to at least observe the courtroom and the courthouse and the court proceedings. And so they're doing a much better job of this than they have in a lot of cases. Kudos to the camera guy. You're doing a pretty good job. Whoever's switching between the robotic cameras and the manned camera, you could give us a little more shots on Doughboy. People need more screen grabs to get to get those memes out there. Thanks for sharing in your crime groups also on Facebook. And we are on YouTube right now under Woodland Park Underground. My dad with the phone is in Facebook live jail, which means I can still post videos. So this video will eventually post on my dad with the phone YouTube. Thanks for joining us on Dad with the Phone YouTube. If you're in the Dad with the Phone group right now, we're broadcasting live through Dad with the Phone to the Dad with the Phone group. We are also broadcasting on Facebook on the Dad with the Phone page. So thanks everybody for joining from all over. There's 100 probably YouTubers that are streaming this thing, and the fact that you're engaging here makes me happy. Oops, the camera just slipped. Look at this little doughboy wearing your blue tie. Tuck that shirt in, boy. I hope he's getting harassed in jail a little bit. When they find out what they did to these kids, when people start to understand what has happened and how they were tortured, I think they're going to get to, in the trial, I think the questions about people are asking, I think they were alive when they were duct taped, okay? You don't duct tape the mouth of a dead person. It's not how it works. You know, remember they were duct taped and then placed in black trash bags. So you don't tape the mouth of a dead person. And they said there was a piece of tape from ear to ear, and then it was wrapped. They were wrapped, mummied in duct tape. They'll be able to tell very much. They'll be able to tell very, very quickly if they were duct taped when they were alive or dead. There's no doubt in my mind they already know, but I believe the way in which they were duct taped, the description of the duct tape and how it was placed up. You don't bind someone's hands and bind someone's feet and duct tape their mouth if they're dead. You just don't. And so, depending on where they were at, maybe they were transported, maybe they were put in, they were duct taped and left alive to be taken somewhere else. Maybe they were tortured. Maybe who knows what happens. And I don't know if they're going to get into more detail on that. I just know when they described how they found the bodies, how the bodies were arranged, it almost in my the way he was describing it, I pictured like a child sitting down, was on the ground, on concrete, on the ground, duct tape feet, duct tape mouth, duct tape hands, not just like a couple of strips, elbow to wrist, all over their hands. This guy needs to, there is a special place for them.
Thank you. Please be seated. We'll be back on the record, continuing with the direct examination of Lieutenant Ball. Is that correct? No, excuse me, it's
Stubbs.
Stubbs. I apologize. Detective Stubbs. Mr. Wood, have you worked out your technology issues there?
Yes, we want to thank Josh, the IT guy, for taking care of that for us.
He's very competent. You may proceed when you're ready.
Thank you. Detective, I'm gonna start playing this and then pause it and have you tell us what's going on when you recognize what it is.
This is my body cam footage as myself and Lieutenant Ball approach the apartment number 175 the first time on the 26th.
Okay.
It actually might be an error that they're letting this audio out, which is good.
Out there too. In the back, it's blue. Blue Subaru.
Hi, you Lori. Lori, I'm Lieutenant Ball, Police Department. How are you? You got a minute? You alone or that help? Or?
My brother's here.
Okay. This is Detective Stubbs.
Hello.
So, we're here.
Yeah, this is a big mess. I just talked to the guy on the phone.
And what did he ask you?
He was just saying that he wanted to do a well check on JJ.
So, JJ would be where?
He's in Arizona.
Who's he with in Arizona?
He's with one of my friends in Arizona.
Oh.
Hi.
Oh, you got a notepad?
No, let me get one.
No. Come here. Mind if he comes in?
No, come on.
So
Sorry.
who's the friend he's with?
My friend Melanie. Her son
Melanie.
has autism. Her name is Melanie Gibb. I gave him all the information on the phone.
Okay, so he can call him?
Yeah.
Discord.
Yeah. What is all this?
We're a little
What is it?
concerned
Why?
because, well, the officers who were here earlier.
Yeah.
Were checking and they got a bad vibe, that, like something was going on here because nobody knew anything about a child. They weren't talking.
It's because a
What's
lot of
going
stuff
on?
has gone on. If you want to know, it's a lot of stuff. So
Well, that's why we're concerned because
It's very-
it just was kind of weird.
it is very weird. I've had to move around a lot. One of my brothers is trying to kill me. Not the brother that lives here, obviously. He's kind of my protector. My other brother that was in with my husband who was trying to kill me for my $2 million life insurance policy. No way.
Now, what?
So a lot of stuff has gone on in this last year. It's been a horrible year for us. I've had to move around. And so I was going to move back to Arizona, put my son back into the school there because I tried to put him in school here, public school at Kennedy.
Okay.
He went for 2 months. We tried it, but he had such a hard time. Now, the person who called is my sister-in-law, but she's his natural grandmother. He's adopted by us. Okay, so her son, who's a drug addict,
Okay.
had a baby with a girl who's a drug addict, and they took him from, CPS took him, gave him to the grandmother. She came and got him, and then she wanted us to adopt him, which we did. We loved
By
him and taken
us,
care.
who we
My
calling?
husband and I, who died earlier this year.
Okay.
He passed away. Since he
Sorry to
passed
hear that.
away, she's been trying to fight me for him and being really horrible to me and that kind of stuff.
The,
She's kind of the paternal friend.
okay, thank
Does
you.
that make sense?
That's
I'm
what I
sorry.
needed. The paternal grandmother.
He has autism and ADHD. He doesn't really talk to people. Like he's very special needs. So I had him in a special needs school there. She was trying to, so what happened was my husband, who we were married for 15 years and had raised all these 5 kids together, switched his life insurance policy to her, right?
To
his sister,
okay.
who got $1 million when he died, and we got nothing. For me to raise JJ, and all the kids got nothing, and everybody got nothing. She got $1 million. So I knew she was going to try to sue me for him, or
JJ?
yeah, because she now has this $1 million, so she can hire people to help him, and I have nothing.
But you have
Nothing,
legal
but
custody.
he's my son. I adopted him.
Right.
He was 2 years. We had him from the time he was 8 months old till 2 years old. So she does nothing that wants to cause me trouble. So I don't tell people the truth about where we are and what we're doing because of those reasons. So I look like a suspect, but I am not a good person. Raised all of my kids. I've done everything that I'm supposed to do in life, but everyone is causing me trouble right now. So
We don't want to cause a lot of trouble. How long have you been here?
we only been here since September.
Okay.
We moved up here in September. My daughter to go to BYUI.
Your daughter goes to BYU?
Yeah.
Does she live here?
So it's been a nightmare, but I'm gonna go back to Arizona so I can put him back in the special needs school. He couldn't do the school here. It was too hard for him. He would scream and cry, take him to school. The principal would have to come out, try to drag him out of the car. Like, it's too hard. But I just don't tell people where I am. I don't tell her where I am ever.
Okay.
And she doesn't have any legal rights to anything. Like, she's been horrible to me since my husband died.
My understanding, she never called you to try to get the child, hey, I'm interested in the child back, but
I know, but she sends me these emails with like the dates and like she's putting up court stuff, like just documenting. I haven't heard from him in all this time. And so I've told her that he's fine, but
See, and we hadn't heard any of that as far as,
I'm just saying she's doing this as part of that,
Yeah.
is my understanding.
and our only concern in this whole thing
Yeah, is that he's fine.
is the child.
I got it.
And so that's where we're at on the, and then
So
we
I
were just a
called
little
her.
weirded out when, and I understand now that we've heard your side of the story.
It's awful. They
Is
just I feel like I'm being tracked all the time. I'm like, why are police coming to my
Well,
door? What
they were
did I do?
They said they were out visiting with 2 guys, and I assume
Who is
one's your brother.
Who is this? Yeah.
Who was the other one? The other guy they were visiting with. There were 2.
Visiting.
Well, we had 2 detectives over here trying to,
Looking for you a
Oh,
little while ago.
because I was at the store.
and they ran into probably one of your brothers in
My
the back
brother
here.
and his friend, probably.
Oh,
He's
who's
been
that?
moving. Chad.
Chad from around here? What's his last name? Yeah, okay. All right.
So it's just a mess that is constantly causing me trouble.
Chad the Daybell?
He's an author.
Doesn't he live like out in the, isn't that the Chad Daybell that, didn't his wife pass away recently? Is that him?
I don't know,
I bet it is. Chad the Daybell. Yeah.
but it sounds familiar as an
I
author.
think I know one of his. He's got a couple of daughters.
He has lots of kids.
Okay. I'll bet it's safe. All right. Well, maybe anything else? Sorry to bother you.
Thank you.
Okay.
We don't mean to be a
I'm
problem.
sorry
We just-
that people are constantly knocking on my door looking for me, and I just don't want to be found. So
Have you had problems? Because I think we only had.
well, the reason I'm moving is because the brother that was going to kill me, that we found emails and texts with my husband at the time, came showing up here. So he found out where I was, and he was knocking on my door.
No, this was your brother?
One of my brothers.
He showed up here and was knocking on your door.
He lives in Kansas.
And you said something about you were getting threatening emails?
Well, no, just after my husband passed, I found emails and texts between them that they were planning all this stuff to get rid of me.
Do we need to worry about him coming over?
Well, that's when I'm moving back. I'm moving, and I'm not gonna be in a place, I'm gonna live with my friend, Melanie, don't tell anybody her name, Gibb, because I don't want anything in my name. I put the apartment in my name, but I've been staying over here with my brother because he protects me.
Okay.
He's very
I just
protective
want
of
to know
me,
if he
so.
shows back up, you can call. I'm gonna take care of it.
Well, that's what I'm saying, like, I just just a nightmare. I mean, I canceled the insurance policy since my husband passed, so there's no money if they can. And what are they gonna do with JJ and Tyler? Like, what do people think?
Okay.
So-
Well, if you have a problem, shows back up, feel free to call us. We'll come and run him off or something. Okay. All right.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we'll get out of here. Sorry to bother you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.
Not.
Detective Stubbs, did you return to that same apartment that day?
Yes, when Detective Hermosillo and Detective Hope could not contact Melanie Gibb, a few minutes later from this encounter, we went back to her door to inquire about how we could get a hold of Melanie Gibb.
And is that what is on the second film file here?
That is
Video file?
correct.
So they want us to ask Lori if she would. So we can get rid of that. Melanie is the friend.
Wasn't Melanie the one living up here? Supposed to be her daughter, Lori's daughter?
No, this was the friend that she's going back down to live with, she said.
Right. She's got a daughter named Melanie.
Let's just see if she will call and have Melanie get a hold of Hope and just do a verification. Because apparently she's not answering the phone down there.
Lori? Hi, Lori, sorry to bother you again. We're having a
Melanie-
little get a hold of your friend down there,
Mel?
Melanie.
Well, they were going to Frozen 2 today, so they may be at the movies.
Could you get a hold of her at some point and say, can you please call back the officer that's been trying to call you?
Okay, sure.
'Cause,
Yeah, because I think they are at the movies right now.
okay, he's been trying to call her or other officer. She's not answering.
Okay.
But if they're at the movie, that's,
Probably at Frozen 2 right now.
yeah,
Because that's the one thing he wanted to do.
I'm frozen too.
Yeah,
Frozen 2 is so
yeah.
cold here.
So-
I don't know if I can handle a whole winter here. That's probably why.
yeah. So if she'll just return his call, that'd be great. Okay, thanks. Yes, sir.
Detective Stubbs. I asked you earlier about your, if you had any certifications regarding computer and cell phone forensics. Have you been involved in any analysis of cell phone records related to this case?
I have.
Are you familiar with location records which can be found on electronic devices?
I am.
Can you tell the court generally, explain generally about location records that can be found on electronic devices?
So it all will depend on the device itself, who the provider is that is tracking location, web searches, number of different apps will track your what you're doing.
Okay. And do you know how those records are generated?
Well, it just depends on the provider, what kind of stuff that they are searching for, what their target, if you will, their target market is. It can be, what you searched for, so they can better plan for that stuff, or GPS data, latitude, longitude, dates and times that you do things.
Okay. Have you used location information from a cellular device successfully in any other cases?
I have.
Okay. Have you analyzed any location records of electronic devices as part of your investigation in this case?
Yes, I have.
Detective, are you familiar with Alex Cox?
I am familiar with him in this case, yes.
Okay. And do you know who he is?
I've never met him, but I know he is the brother to Lori Vallow Daybell and the brother-in-law to the defendant, Chad Daybell.
Do you know where Mr. Cox is now?
I have been told that Mr. Cox died in
Judge,
December
I'm gonna object.
2019.
Mr. Pryor,
Hearsay.
Mr. Wood, there's been an objection as to hearsay.
I'll rephrase the question.
Okay,
Through your investigation, do you know of the death of Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Okay. Through your pursuant to your investigation, why were you interested in Alex Cox's Google data?
The reason we were interested was we knew Alex lived in an apartment very close to Lori. We also knew, because of the relationship between Lori and Chad being, brother-in-law and sister, that Alex may have some information onto where the location of the children may be.
And were you able to obtain Alex Cox's Google location data?
Yes, we were.
How did you do that?
We issued a search warrant. We had information of many known phone numbers, email addresses for the individuals in this case. We obtained a search warrant that we issued to Google and received a return from them with results.
And you may have already answered this. Did the warrant ask for just Alex Cox's data or multiple users?
No, we were requesting multiple users from the information we had obtained.
Okay. When you received a return on that warrant, was that return accompanied by a certificate of authenticity?
Yes, it was.
Your Honor, the state would ask for what's been marked as State's Exhibit 15 to be shown to the defense and then handed to the witness.
Exhibit 15 will be shown to Mr. Pryor. Exhibit 15 is now being shown to the witness.
Detective, do you recognize that document?
I do.
What is it?
It's a certificate of authenticity that was accompanied the results of the search warrant from Google.
And have you reviewed that document before?
I have reviewed this document, yes.
And are you familiar with its contents?
I am.
Detective, is that document signed under penalty of perjury?
Yes, it was.
By whom?
The Andrew Jordan.
Okay. Does that certificate of authenticity state that the record was made from information transmitted by someone with personal knowledge?
Yes, in paragraph 1, it states that.
Does that certificate of authenticity state that the record was kept in the course of regular conducted activity of Google?
In paragraph 5, it states that as well.
And does the certificate of authenticity state that the record was that making the record was a regular practice of Google?
Also in paragraph 5, it states that, yes.
Okay. Your Honor, I would ask that that certificate, State's Exhibit 15, be entered into evidence.
No objection, Judge.
Exhibit 15 will be admitted.
Your Honor, I'd ask that what's been marked at State's Exhibit 16 be shown to the defense and then handed to the witness.
Exhibit 16 is being handed to the witness.
Detective, do you recognize that document?
I do.
Have you seen it before?
I have.
And have you reviewed it?
I have reviewed this document, yes.
And are you familiar with its contents?
I'm sorry?
Are you familiar with its contents?
I am.
Detective, when you sent your search warrant for the accounts from Google that you talked about, did the accounts provided by Google include Google subscriber information?
Yes, that is what this document is in reference to.
Okay. And is this document a true and accurate representation of the subscriber information you received for one of those Google documents?
Yes, this is one that Google sent us for one of those accounts, yes.
Your Honor, the state would ask that State's Exhibit 16 be entered into evidence.
No objection, Judge.
Exhibit 16 will be admitted.
Detective, can you look at the top of the first page of Exhibit 16?
Okay,
And do you see where it says Google subscriber information?
I do.
Is there a name identified with that subscriber information?
The name of Alex Cox.
Is there an email associated with that subscriber information?
There is, the email is homerjmaximus@gmail.com.
Is there any other data on that subscriber information page? To
There
help
is
you?
a subscriber phone number, which we had previously identified as belonging to Alex Cox.
Okay.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Detective, when you received the return on that search warrant, what was the size of that document in terms of pages if it were to be printed out?
Oh, the size of this entire document was thousands of pages.
Okay. We've discussed Alex Cox's Google location data. If that were to be printed out, do you know approximately how many pages it would be?
So just the location data for this particular account, if you were to print it out, would have been over 28,000 pages.
And if you were to open that data up on a computer, what format does it come in?
If you opened it up, you would see it in what would be like an Excel spreadsheet.
Okay. And what kind of information is located on that spreadsheet in general for Google location data?
So for Google, it would be the date timestamps. It would be the latitude and longitude of the said, if you will, pings or pins that were placed. It would have a radius of error that Google has interpreted. It would have what they know as the device being used to access the Google system. And then there's another number that is really associated with Google and whatever inner workings they have that would have to be Google that explains it.
Okay. Due to the large size of the data, I think you said it was over 28,000 pages of user location data, correct?
Correct.
Have you prepared any summaries of data you found in that document?
I have prepared some, yes, some documents.
Can you tell us about those documents?
So what I did was I took an aerial photograph and that I took specific dates and times of interest and just pinpointed on the map using GPS latitude, longitude, time date stamps to place pins on a map to show location.
Okay. And how many summaries have you prepared?
I've prepared 2 at this time.
Okay. And were those summaries prepared with data you verified from Alex Cox's Homer J. Maximus account?
Yes.
And that is the same data that you received included with that certificate of authenticity
That is correct.
we introduced earlier. Okay. Your Honor, the state would ask for State's Exhibit, what's been marked as State's Exhibit 17, be shown to the defense and then handed to the witness.
you want it handed to the witness or put on the easel, Mr. Wood?
We can put it on the easel.
We'll just put it over the top of the previous exhibit.
Oh,
Would you like that handed directly to the witness?
Your Honor, I actually would like to have the, before I enter that into evidence. Well, yeah, before I ask for that, I'd ask for the State's Exhibit 17 to be entered into evidence.
Mr. Pryor, any objection to that?
I think a little more foundation would be necessary.
That's fine.
Hold up here, Madam Bailiff. Sounds like Mr. Wood is going to lay some more foundation. Would you like that exhibit handed to the witness?
Your Honor, yes, I'd be fine.
Okay.
Detective, do you recognize State's Exhibit 17?
I do. I prepared this.
Okay. What data did you use to prepare that with?
The location data that I had obtained from the Google account, Homer J. Maximus.
Okay. And was that data verified with the Homer J. Maximus account?
As far as verified, that I have checked and double checked my locations from the map overview to the GPS or latitude, longitude given by Google.
Okay. And how did you prepare that?
Well, there's a number of ways you can prepare it. This particular aerial photograph, we just, you can do this using Google Earth, Google Maps, Ping Maps, or Bing Maps, Microsoft, anyone. If you enter a location with the GPS coordinates, doesn't matter, from my experience, anyone that I've used will always come up with the same waypoints.
Okay. Your Honor, this time I'd ask the State's Exhibit 17 be entered into evidence. And I'd add that that's pursuant to Idaho Rule of Evidence 1006, which allows for summaries to be prepared of voluminous data.
Mr. Pryor?
Judge, I don't have a problem with how he's applying 501. The difficulty is he has a demonstrative exhibit that he's trying to mark without any foundation of what's on that in terms of the picture and what it represents. So there's still a foundation problem here.
State's more than happy to lay that foundation, Your Honor.
I'd like that laid out so that there's a clear record of exactly what that picture that is in Officer Stubbs' hands represents. So I need some more foundation in that regard, Judge.
All right.
Detective
Mr. Woods,
Stubbs,
please do so.
the base layer of that summary document you have, what does it purport to be?
This overhead view is of the property of 202 East, 1900 North, the Chad Daybell property.
Okay. And have you been at that property?
I have been at this property, yes.
And are you familiar with the layout of the property and landmarks on that property?
I am.
Okay. And is that base layer, that image, is that a true and accurate representation, to your knowledge, of what that property looks like?
It is.
Okay. And then what layers have you added to that summary?
So besides the photograph itself, I have added a, if you will, type of table of contents at the bottom where I can explain the other things that I put on here, which would be red triangles that are specified by a number next to them that correlate with the latitude and longitude that I have placed on this map. Other than those things, that is the only thing I've added to this photograph.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, the state would move
There
forward.
won't be an objection this time.
Exhibit 17 will be admitted.
Your Honor, before 17 is published, the state would ask that what's in marked in State's Exhibit 18 would be shown to the defense and then handed to the witness.
Exhibit 18 will be handed to the witness.
Detective, do you recognize State's Exhibit 18?
I do.
Is it one of the summaries that you testified to earlier?
Yes, this is a second summary.
Did you prepare that summary with data you verified came from Alex Cox's Homer J. Maximus Google account?
Yes, I did.
What is the base layer of that image purport to be?
The base layer of this is the apartment complex at 565 Pioneer Road, where both Lori Vallow, Daybell, and Alex Cox resided.
Judge, and I want to be clear that he's referring to Lori Vallow and Alex Cox, and he did use the Daybell last name, but I want to make it clear that he's in no way implying that Chad Daybell was part of that. Is that correct? Living in that residence?
As living here?
As living in that residence that's in your hand right now.
That's correct.
Just so we have a clear record, Judge, because the Daybell name was used.
The record will so reflect.
How did you prepare that summary?
Again, this was an aerial photograph taken. There's been a couple layers added to this. This this image I received from our GIS department, which is the department of the city who maps, if you will, all of the city. Also their, if you will, the boundaries of residents and so forth and so on with addresses and so forth. So the second layer shows these apartments and the apartment numbers associated with the individual apartments. Again, my table of contents at the bottom right, that I received that data off of the Google location services I had received from Google with the Homer J. Maximus account.
Okay. Your Honor, the state would ask that State's Exhibit 18 be entered into evidence.
Judge, I would ask that there's an identifying factor telling me the date of that summary, because there's been no representation of the exact date that that summary represents, so I would like that from the witness.
There's been an objection as to foundation with the summary. Mr. Wood, do you wish to lay that objection?
Detective, what are the dates associated with the data you entered onto that image?
The reference numbers, is that what we're referring to? The GPS coordinates I placed on here?
Yes.
They are September 9th, 3 of those on September 9th. Also, September 14th and September 6th are all dates that I've associated on this map.
Okay. Your Honor, this time we'd ask that State's Exhibit 18 be entered into evidence.
Judge, just clarification in lieu of objection, if I may.
Mr. Pratt, if you'll speak up just a little bit, I'm having
Sorry,
difficulty.
just clarification and if I can inquire in aid of objection, Judge, just very briefly.
You may.
Thank you, Your Honor. Officer, September 9th, you said there are 3 readings at that particular point. Is that correct?
I have mapped 3 different,
Right.
yes.
And those represent just Alex Cox, is that correct?
Not Alex Cox, but the device belonging to Alex Cox.
Okay, and then on the 14th of September, it's the device belonging to Alex Cox as well. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then on the 6th of September, it's the device belonging to Alex Cox. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you already foresaw, excuse me, you already anticipated my question is, that's merely just a device that in no way can establish whether or not the person is present at the time of those locations. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. Nothing else, Judge. Thank you.
Mr. Pryor, I feel like your questions were cross-examination questions. Any objection to the admission of Exhibit 18?
No, Judge.
Exhibit 18 will be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd ask that Exhibit 18 be published and be placed on the easel.
Would you like that placed over the previous exhibit that's on the easel, Mr. Wood?
Yes, please. Or
Do you want,
whatever's easiest for court personnel.
do you want both of those summaries to be visible as you're questioning the witness?
One at a time, Your Honor. We'll start with 18, then go back to 17.
Okay, why don't we take a brief recess right now? We're going to crank the air conditioner in this courtroom for just a moment, see if we can cool it down by 10 or 50 degrees. And we'll go back on the record here in 15 minutes. It's 2:30, so why don't we plan on going back on the record at about 10 minutes to 3 o'clock.
Check it, Ed. Check. Wow. I'm not 100% sure when it comes to that video, if that video was supposed to be played out loud and we were supposed to hear the audio like we did, because it made it sound like when the judge, started that video, we weren't going to get to hear it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that, and she flat out lied. I am a little I can't believe that the officers what they must have been thinking, knowing she was married to Daybell. The way that was all bit, a whole spang right there. Why? Who is this friend? Who's that other guy? What's his name? My brother's friend. They talk about Daybell's wife a little bit. So it was the body camera footage and her talking is gonna bury her. It's going to bury her. It's gonna bury her. The way that Chad kind of said, "Oh, I barely know her. I don't have her number." Just a lot of little different stuff that went down in that video alone. I wish they had a lot of that. I have a feeling they have some more body camera footage that they're going to show. I have a feeling they're going to listen to some more recordings. Here's the deal. Like, lots of good info. I don't think they're laying out everything they have, but this is a lot more info than you would normally get at a preliminary hearing. Now, you get a lot of times you get to hear hearsay and different stuff at like a pretrial hearing. This is just a preliminary for probable cause. The bodies alone, probable cause, should, but it's cool. They're laying it out. They're laying out a lot of stuff. They're laying out some of the cell phone data. They're talking about the cell phone data we already knew about. They're talking about but the body camera footage, it puts a state of mind when they're going to know Like hindsight's 2020, right? And so you get to see the kind of diabolical state of mind Lori Vallow was in just to roll off the stories. Just to roll, oh my God, they've been coming after me. Oh my God, oh, they're gonna try to kill me. Oh, and you heard a little bit of resentment come in though about the life insurance policy. How crazy was that? Boy, they slammed her. She wanted to talk about how they ripped her off because when her husband deceased, when my husband passed, your husband was shot by your protector brother, murdered in cold blood. So ridiculous. So ridiculous. She's not getting off. I have a feeling I do have a feeling Chad's gonna. I don't know if Chad's gonna make the deal, or if Lori's gonna make the deal, or if they even need a deal. They might not even need a deal. Why did she need money if the world was ending? Interesting. I think she blamed the kids for. I think there's a lot of things that are going on in Lori's mind. I think she is the queen bee's niche. I have a feeling Chad's gonna play in his. Oh me, look, they want him to look like a doughboy. Yeah, she could be the mastermind. Can you imagine her preliminary hearing? They are going to rock her world. I wonder if there's a way that she would be able to view this if her lawyer showed her this. They got him looking like he's slow. Why did we go into a sidebar? I can't even remember now. Oh, they're trying to cool that place off. Can't stand the heat. Get out the oven, bitch. You got the devil in there. The court needs to realize when you bring in the devil into your courtroom, it might get a little warm. Got a little hot up in the courthouse today. Judge said we got to cool it off by 10 to 50 degrees. Yeah, I would think the other attorney would be watching this for sure. I would think that would be, in my opinion, it would be the smartest thing any attorney could do is watch this, knowing what they're going to try to bring towards you. But they open up. You know why it's hot up in there is because they got a portal to hell, and the hot air is trying to suck him up. It'll be interesting to see how Lori's attorneys approach her hearing, because you would think they're going to get a lot of info from like this hearing right now, and how they could use that for real to help them prepare in a sense of at least understanding some of the evidence. See, I thought maybe the attorneys already had discovery, but the way I'm reading this is they haven't even been given the discovery yet, because he hasn't pled guilty or not guilty. And so after this hearing, all of this discovery that they have, this evidence that's coming up and going into court officially, this is the official, hey, this is all the stuff we got that says you did something. So, but they only have to prove probable cause for the arrest. And so I think probable cause was proven at the crown of the head. When the cop said the crown of the head was visible, I think probable cause was met. I do find it interesting that they used the story of what we found. Now they're given the ding. This is not a literal. That's the best part about this. This isn't a literal DLC. They could have gone backwards, but they went this way, which is cool. If they would have started with the video this morning, I'm trying, just working out this case. Why did they have the first cop go first? It's all strategic in its planning. I think the dramatics with how the bodies were recovered was a strong kickoff to the horrific nature of a crime that took place. He's officially being charged with tampering with a dead body and tampering with a corpse, tampering with evidence. So they've already let the cat out of the bag on how horrific this thing is. You know, it wasn't like these guys were buried with their favorite stuffed animals. You know, they were bound, gagged, tortured, duct taped. And it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I don't see a defense, only because of how I don't see a defense, to be honest with you, for any of them involved. I think the only defense they're going to get is it's hot in the courtroom. They do have Chad, according to a video I saw at break, Chad was in a flight jacket, which they must have taken off his bulletproof vest. So he was in a bulletproof vest outside the courthouse, being held in handcuffs. So there was a picture or a video that East Idaho News posted up, a little 7-second clip or so. You can see it on Dad with the Phone as well, right on the Facebook page. But Chad Daybell is in a flight jacket outside the courthouse. I saw it on Twitter. Where did I see that? I saw it on Twitter. You can check it out on Dad with a Phone. It's Nate Easton, Nate Eaton or whatever from the East Idaho News. And he yells out to him, "Do you got anything to say, Chad?" Yeah, it's interesting. Chad's kids are now living in the house. They lived across the street at some house, but they're now living in the house. Yeah. Well, maybe I could, let's try that. Let me see if I can pull that up. Little Twitter. I'll pull up East Idaho. What's his name's little news. Where's old Nate? Oh, Natey. Nate Eaton. Yeah, let's see if we can pull this. They ain't coming back into hearing yet. Let's check out a video of. We're not gonna miss it. Don't worry. I'll drop us right back in if they show back up. So this Chad coming back into the courtroom.
Anything you want to say, Chad?
Oh, Nate, get on him. You got anything to say, Chad?
Anything you want to say, Chad?
It's gonna be hot in there, devil. So
Anything you want to say, Chad?
Nate must be outside doing broadcast stuff, but he's not inside the courtroom, which is interesting. I would have tried to
Anything you want to say, Chad?
get on in there and be inside. But
Anything you want to say, Chad?
so a little outside shot, old Daybell coming back into the courtroom. Thanks, Nate from East Idaho News, keeping it real. Hey, what you barking at? What you barking at? Oh, here we go. They gotta fix. They gotta fix it. There we go. So they're killing the audio. I'm surprised they didn't kill the audio during that video. So good that they didn't. I wonder what the judge is gonna think when he finds out that thing was released, though. They cooled it off.
Thank you. Please be seated. We'll be back on the record. Took a brief recess to cool it down in here. We were in the middle of direct examination of Detective Stubbs. And Mr. Wood, I think you had just admitted 17 and 18 into evidence. It looks like you have 18 on the easel right now. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you may proceed with your direct examination.
Your Honor, I wonder if I could adjust that so that I can see easel as well.
That's fine. Do you need to scoot it back towards the wall? I can.
Your Honor, due to the nature of what Detective Stubbs is going to be testifying to, we'd ask that he be able to stand next to the easel and put on a mask.
That's fine. Mr. Wood, why don't you don yours while he does that?
Yeah.
There's a laser pointer as well, Mr. Wood. I don't know if you've explained that to Detective Stubbs. Okay. Hold up here. Do we, if he's going to be touching the exhibit, why don't we put some gloves on the witness here? If there's going to be anybody else that's touching it. There's some right here. It's fine.
Detective, now that Exhibit 18's been published, can you, and since we took a break, can you just briefly summarize again what Exhibit 18 is and how you prepared it?
So this was an aerial photograph taking of this apartment complex, April 2000 is when the photograph was taken. What we did was we took, made this table of contents here, which I've numbered 1, 2, 3, 8, and 9. Those numbers correlate with the red triangles that I have placed on this map in 2 different locations and represent from the Google documents the location services for the Homer J. Maximus account. These latitude and longitudes correlate with these triangles. Now, also accompanied on this map, along with those records from the Excel spreadsheet, as I mentioned, 28,000 plus pages. The number here, and the reference number, on the far left column of that Excel spreadsheet is the quick reference 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on down the page. This number correlates with that line item, if you will. Next are the coordinates that Google provided for us. Next to that is the date and time that these locations were logged through Google on that account. And the very last line over here is margin or radius of error from these findings from Google.
And are all the margins of error the same?
No. Depending on the one, they range, as you can see here, if you can see, from 4 meters and a couple at 15-meter radius of error.
On Exhibit 18, why did you focus on the coordinates you focused on?
Mainly because of 2 things. These are 2 residents where Alex Cox resided in 107 and that Lori Daybell resided in 175.
Okay. Was there anything significant about the dates?
As far as the dates go, 1, 2, and 3 are dated the 9th of September, 2019, in the early morning hours of that day.
What is the timestamp on? Can you point to pin number 3?
Here in the parking lot.
And what is the timestamp on that?
Number 3 is 02:42 hours and 2 seconds.
Okay. And what was the date on that?
That was the September 9th,
Okay.
2019.
And can you point to pin number 2?
Pin number 2 is almost in the same location in the parking lot.
And what is the timestamp on that?
Pin number 2 is 02:42 and 11 seconds.
Okay. And can you point at pin number 1?
Same location with this triangle here.
Okay. And what is the timestamp on that?
That would be 03:37:22.
Okay. What is the margin of error on pin number 3?
Pin number 3 is at 4 meters.
What is the margin of
Judge,
error?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. He said 4 meters or 4D? 4, thank you.
What is the margin of error on pin number 2?
4 meters.
And what is the margin of error on pin number 1?
4 meters.
Now, let's talk really quickly about the timestamp. When you receive Google records, Are they in mountain time?
No.
How is the time relayed on the Google location data?
So on the Excel spreadsheet, they would be in UTC time.
Okay.
UTC here during that time of year is UTC -6 hours.
Okay, thank you. Can you point at pin number 8? Actually, I'm going to ask you to point to pin number 9 first.
Pin number 9 is over in this area here.
Okay. What is the timestamp on pin number 9?
Pin number 9 would be September 6th, 2019 at 2:56 a.m. and 13 seconds.
Okay, and what's the margin of error or radius of error on that?
15 meters.
Okay. And can you give us the same information on pin number 8?
Pin number 8 is the 14th of September, 2019 at 01:21 and 43 seconds in the AM.
And what is the margin or radius of error on pin number 8?
That again is 15 meters.
All right. Your Honor, I'd ask to publish State's Exhibit 17 at this time.
No objection. Now, the easel is exhibit 17, is that correct, Mr. Wood?
Yes. And again, just to clarify for the record, taking a break, can you just briefly summarize again what State's Exhibit 17 is?
This is an aerial photograph of the Chad Daybell property.
Okay, and where is that located?
202 East 1900 South in Fremont County.
And did you prepare that summary in the same manner as State's Exhibit 18?
Yes, I did.
How many data points have you plotted on that summary?
4 data points.
Okay. Can you point to data point or location number 5?
Location number 5 is in this area here.
Okay. What is the timestamp on that?
Timestamp of September 9th, 2019 at 9:21 and 36 seconds in the AM.
Okay, what's the margin of error on that?
That would be 6 meters.
Can you point to location number 4?
This area here.
Mm-hmm. What is the timestamp on that?
Timestamp of September 9th, 2019 at 10:57 and 03 seconds in the AM.
And what's the margin of error?
5 meters.
Detective, can you point at location 7 on that summary?
Here.
Yes. What is the timestamp on location 7?
Timestamp of 09:56 and 28 seconds in the AM.
Okay. What's the margin of error on that?
4 meters.
And finally, can you point to location number 6?
Number 6 is in the same area, general area.
And what is the timestamp on that?
9/23/2019 at 10:02:19 hours in the AM.
And what's the margin of error?
3 meters.
Thank you. Detective, I think you take your seat again.
Detective, when you've been seated, you can take off your glove and mask if you'd like.
Detective, you testified about the contents of the Homer J. Maximus Google location data. Are there other data points located on the Daybell property in that, in the data that was given to you on your search warrant return?
There are additional data points in the area, yes.
And are there additional data points near or on the, near the Lori Vallow apartment at 565 Pioneer Road?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a reason you didn't map out all the data points on the Homer J. Maximus Google location data?
Well, the reason being is because the file is so massive that it would take, I can't even imagine how long it would take to put all the waypoints on a map.
Okay. Say I have no further questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Cross-examination, Mr. Pryor.
Thank you, Judge. Initially, when you went out there for the interview of Miss Vallow, and I believe that was in November, is that right?
That is correct.
And the date in November was what, officer?
The 26th.
Now, the purpose of that initial visit was a welfare check, was it not?
It was.
Okay, so it was a preliminary matter, is that correct?
Yes.
And you're a detective with which law enforcement agency?
The Rexburg Police Department.
And as the Rexburg Police Department, is it your policy that even for preliminary matters, such as a welfare check, you are required to have your body cam on?
It is not a requirement. However, since I've been issued a body camera, I always make it a practice to wear it when I go to talk to people outside the office.
And that is because you want to accurately and correctly reflect what someone says to you. Would that be the case?
That's right.
And you want to accurately provide a record of what was transpired because people make mistakes, correct?
Yes, people can make mistakes.
And police officers are obviously people as well, and police officers make mistakes when they're in the course of doing an investigation. There are times when they may not recite things exactly the way they are. So a camera is a tool to help you do that. Is that correct?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. I think that's more testimony than it is a question.
Mr. Pryor, what's your question?
The question is that it's a good practice to have a body cam and record a conversation when you're interviewing any witness, correct?
That is my personal feeling for me.
And you're doing that out of experience, correct?
Correct.
Now, there was some previous testimony about Mr. Cox residing in Unit 175. Do you have any information that suggests he was residing in Unit 175?
I don't have that knowledge whether he was or wasn't residing, other than my body cam footage saying that he was there.
Okay. And during the time that you went there on the 26th of November, Mr. Daybell wasn't there, correct?
That day, I never saw for myself Mr. Daybell.
And there was an acknowledgement that her brother was there, though, correct?
That is correct.
And then on the second trip, I don't recall seeing whether there was an acknowledgement that Mr. Cox was there. Was he there again the second time, do you recall?
I do not know.
Okay. All right. But again, you didn't see Mr. Daybell there, correct?
That is correct.
And your belief is that when you went to Unit 175, it was because you believed that was Lori Vallow's residence. Is that right?
That is right.
And your data points seem to suggest that you're looking at Unit 175 and Unit 107.
Correct.
And there's a reason for that, is there not?
Yes.
That's because somebody lives in Unit 107, right?
We believed one of the family members lived in
And
107.
who would that be?
Alex Cox.
And who lives in 175?
Lori Vallow.
So just so we put this into terms that I can understand, when you're talking about 4 meters, you're talking approximately 12 feet.
Approximately.
And when you're talking about 15 meters, you're talking about 45 feet.
Approximately.
Okay. I am curious, and this is in the way of an explanation. When you're talking UC time -6, give me an example of what UC time -6 is. It looks like the clock says 3:05. So what would be an example of that?
Well, if you will, there's a point where they actually start recording time. And as you go through time zones, you gain or lose whatever an hour from the starting point of, if you will, a time starting.
Okay,
And
so-
then because we're in mountain time,
Right.
at that time of year, you take the general time and you subtract 6 hours from that.
So when you say 242 in pin number 2, in this example, and it's 242, do we go back 6 hours earlier?
No, you would add 6. From UTC time, you minus 6 to
So
get
if
to
I
our
could
time
ask- If I could ask you to go back up to the exhibit, would you mind doing that for me?
Mr. Pryor, exhibit 17 or exhibit 18?
Well, I'm going to start with 17, then we'll go to 18 after that. Because I think 17 is still up there, is it not, officer? All right, so that one is number,
This is 17.
that's right. I'm sorry, maybe I misspoke. So let's talk with pin number 5. On pin number 5, you said it was on September 9th, right? And you put down the time as 9:21 a.m. Is that correct, officer? All right. And then you put down the time of variance or margin of error, I guess is the appropriate term, based on what I've read, margin of error is 6 meters, right? Correct. So is that actually 9:21 a.m. on September 9th, or is there a additional time that needs to be added to that?
It was, in our time, 9:21.
Okay,
However, when you talk to a carrier of a phone or Google or whoever else, they generally send you this layout in UTC time. So depending on if you're on the East Coast, if you're here, wherever you are, you can do that margin and deduct those hours or add.
so you're the one who came up with the calculation as to what these proximate times are, is that correct?
The only thing I did was minus UTC time minus 6 to get our local time.
Okay, all right. And then again, on number 7, pin number 7, what was the time on that?
09:56 and 28 seconds in the AM.
And those points that you're talking about reflect the device that was owned by Alex Cox, is that correct?
The Google states belong to Alex Cox.
Okay. And on the items that were sent on the house, or excuse me, the apartments, those times and those pins were a reflection of a device that was owned by Alex Cox, is that correct?
The same device.
Okay, all right. Thank you, officer. Go ahead, you can return to your seat. Can you tell me what the range of summaries is in this particular case? In other words, the start time for which range you subpoenaed Google and the end time for which range you ended. You're reflecting about 28,000 pages of documents. I'd like to know what the range is, the start range and the stop range.
You know, I would have to actually look at the search warrant again to be sure of the dates we requested.
Well, my recollection is you admitted that, did you not, as exhibit?
Search warrant 2019-86.
Okay. Do you have at least a recollection of what it may be?
From what I remember, and first part of September.
Okay.
Through December.
Through December?
Through when we served the search warrant.
Okay. So we don't know how many times from September through December that those devices were on the Daybell property, correct?
We don't have a total number at this time, no.
Are you working on that?
There is things being worked on at this time,
Are
yes.
you working on that?
I am working with members of the FBI CAS team to come up with those numbers.
Okay, so in other words, we're going to, at some point in the future, there'll be a complete analysis of every date that this particular device or devices was not only in the apartment, but also on the Daybell property. That'll be forthcoming, I assume, is that correct?
Well, I can't answer for exactly what the CAS team is doing, but they are doing additional analysis on those times and those coordinates.
And that information has been preserved in the event there needs to be someone else taking a look at that as well, correct?
That is correct.
Did you have an occasion to talk with Mr. Daybell at any time?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Did you have an occasion to talk to Mr. Daybell at any time?
No,
You hesitated. Why is that?
I was trying to remember if I had said stand right over here or whatever while he was in the kitchen. I don't exactly recall.
Okay, so there's no recorded conversation or body cam of Mr. Daybell that you have in your possession. Is that correct?
I did have my body camera on that day as well.
Okay.
Have I reviewed that as of the last little bit? I have not.
Have you provided that to the prosecuting attorney?
I believe he has copies.
Judge, I have nothing else at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wood, any redirect?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you, Detective Stubbs. You can be excused from the witness stand. That exhibit, which number exhibit is that? 16, thank you. Are there any other exhibits there in the witness cubicle? We'll allow cleaning to take place of the witness cubicle. Mr. Wood, who do you intend on calling as your next witness?
Your Honor, Spencer Ramel for the state. The state would next call Winn Hill.
Say that one more time.
Winn Hill?
Winn Hill?
Yes, Judge.
Mr. Wood, can I have the bailiff put that exhibit backwards again?
Yes.
You can leave that on there, Mr. Bailiff. If you just want to turn it around backwards and set it against the wall. Mr. Hill, if you'll come forward, stand in front of this witness chair, raise your right arm and face the clerk. Stand right there in front of the plexiglass and look at the clerk right here. Raise your right arm.
Do you solemnly swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this cause now will be shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
You can be seated here in the witness chair, Mr. Hill. Once you're seated, Mr. Hill, you may take off your mask. Mr. Wood, you may inquire.
Thank you, Judge. And again, Spencer Ramel for the record.
Mr. Ramel, I apologize. You may inquire.
Thank you, Judge. Can I have you state your full name and spell that name for the record?
My name is Winn Hill, Wynnhill,
Mr. Hill, where are you employed?
at Brigham Young University, Idaho.
And how long have you been employed at BYU, Idaho?
Just over 14 years.
And what is your current role at the university?
I currently serve as the Dean of Students there.
Does BYU, Idaho use a student management system?
We do.
Are you familiar with that system?
I am.
How so?
Yeah, I work in the student life area, and so we have a student life management system that connects to the larger student management system.
Mr. Hill, will you scoot a little closer to the microphone?
Sure.
Pull that microphone down a little bit, name it right at your chin,
There we go.
and then up at your mouth. That's great.
Great.
What information does your student management system hold?
Yeah, it holds information from the application process and other student enrollment information on a student.
Does your system allow you to look up current students attending BYU Idaho?
Yes,
Does your system allow you to look up past students
yes,
that have attended BYU Idaho? I'm sorry.
yes,
Does your system allow you to look up individuals who have applied but are not currently attending BYU
yes,
Idaho?
it does.
Did you check your registration system for a specific individual who requested Rexford Police Department in relation, to a missing persons investigation?
I did.
Who was that individual you checked for?
I believe they gave me the name of Tylee Ryan, Tylee Cox, Tylee Vallow. I checked all of those names with the date of birth of 9/24/02.
And can you tell me the date that you did that?
I can. It was February 28th,
And can you tell me-
2020. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you tell me where you were when you checked it?
I believe I was in my office
On campus?
on campus. Yes.
And what was the result of that check?
Yeah, we couldn't find any information on that person.
So it's your testimony that names Tylee Ryan, Tylee Cox, and Tylee Vallow with the corresponding date of birth, September 24th, 2002, has never applied to BYU Idaho or has never been a student at BYU Idaho.
According to our records.
Judge, that's all I have.
No questions, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Winn. You can be excused from the witness stand. Mr. Rammel, may this witness be excused from the court.
From the state perspective, yes, Judge.
No objection, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Hill, for appearing. Mr. Rammel, you can call the next witness as well.
Your Honor, I'll take care of the next witness. The state calls Melanie Gibb.
Wow, wow, wow. Look at this. This is very unusual in a preliminary to actually pull witnesses outside of kind of the expert realm. So this will be an interesting witness because these witnesses have kind of been coached in a sense. Because they have this is going to be interesting. I was not expecting. I mean, I know I saw all the subpoenas and all the people they subpoenaed but they'll subpoena a lot of people. The fact that they're pulling them for probable cause probably is going to be around the phone calls and that they made with her. Look at, he's trying not to look at the camera. Freaking, he's about as close as they come to the evil in the world right there. Yeah, she's a talker too. She likes to be in front of the cameras. We're gonna get a lot more. This they may kick this into tomorrow. I got to assume they're going to put her up there for at least a good 30 minutes to an hour, depending on cross-examination. She cannot be found. Uh-oh. 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 Need a little recess. They need to prepare her a little bit. Oh, look, we're getting chummy with the lawyers. So it looks like we're going to go into about a 5-minute recess as they prepare a witness. Man, it is getting, now that we've kind of gotten through the police officer's statements, they brought that last one on because I bet they're about to ask this lady about, were you ever told that they were enrolled in school, or did they ever try to convince you that the kids were, at the old missionary school? They brought the school people in, so I don't know. It's just gonna get good. I'm really surprised at how much they're, for a probable cause hearing, they're digging into this. I have a pretty good suspicion that if they're gonna call her to the stand, I'm still muted. It'll be interesting. I wonder if they will ask her, if Lori asked her to lie about the kids. I gotta believe that. He is not out of jail. Who? Chad? No. He is he gets to walk around the courthouse like a free man because that's part of his little freedoms as a whatever, innocent until proven guilty. So that's why he looks like he's just cruising around. Yeah, she's given interviews already. And she's talked to a lot of people when they were looking for the kids. I guess she told Nate from old East Idaho that she was for sure testifying. But then when they go to find her, they can't find her. She's the one who did the real long interview with both Nate Easton and with she's the one who was talked to and did the if you don't know who she is, I'm gonna bring up a picture of her so you can see. You'll really, if you've been following this case at all, you'll know exactly who she is. She did these interviews with all the news people. So this is her right here, and she's about to come on the stand, which is gonna be freaking awesome. She did a bunch of interviews, talked about this whole thing. She did Dateline. She did the Nate got the first interview, then they came back and did the kind of the mock setup with her with the Dateline stuff. But no, she's a talker. She has a rehearsed speech. In other words, you know, she knows what she's gonna say, and so she's gonna make a good witness, for sure. Gonna make a good witness, and she's probably not gonna tell us anything she hasn't already told us, which is, I have a feeling she's not gonna tell us anything that she hasn't already told us, and so it'll be interesting to see how they approach the questioning, because she's already given a lot of info. She's already talked to the cops. She's already done the interviews with the Datelines and had all the questions asked. She's told the crazy stories. Like this is the zombie lady. This is the stories where I am so surprised we're getting this for preliminary. I gotta be honest with you. I was thinking I'd have this thing wrapped up. Hey, what y'all barking at? Hey, General, calm down. My dogs are going nuts. My dogs are getting excited. They're getting excited about it. This doesn't seem normal for a plea rim, but then again, nothing about this is normal. Absolutely. This is not really normal for a preliminary, although during the Patrick Frazee preliminary hearing, we got a lot of info because Greg Slater talked and told KK's story, but it was the cops talking. They're bringing in now people who are not police officers, people who are not investigators. These are personal friends and witnesses, right? These are people who knew these people, and this is where cross-examination is going to be a very, very touchy. They're going to protect her. The best part about this witness here is she's already been cross-examined by Dateline, by Nate. So the attorney is going to protect her with objections, with they're gonna protect her on the cross-examination, but it's still going to make for that's going to make good for interesting court TV. That's for damn sure. She was at Lori's the night JJ was killed. They're saying woof, woof, ruff, ruff. Malene's a witness. She's going to cover all bases to move forward. Yeah, pretty much. Cap. Check the boxes. They done checked the boxes already. They've really checked probable. In my opinion, they've checked probable cause boxes, right? The boxes were checked at the crown of the head. It's enough probable cause for any judge to say, yeah, we should really look into this and have a proper trial. And now they're bringing in a witness for all intensive purposes, who's already done multiple. Now, here's the deal. Hopefully she ain't been lying, because if she's been lying about anything, cross-examination is going to ask her. If Chad has told on her, done something, knows something, has a secret on her, well, then it's going to come out today. But I don't see that happening. You know, she's a zombie, though. You never know. You never know. Dang, I did not know this was going to take my day away. Good thing I didn't have too much planned for today. I had some stuff that I needed to get done, and I've gotten it done, but man, maybe she's been suicided between. Maybe she got scared. Right. What's the delay? Is she MIA? Is she backing out? Is she in the restroom doing her hair so she look good in front of Chad? I'm just glad my computer hasn't acted up. Internet service been going strong today. Technology's working in the great state of Idaho. I don't think she originally lied. I don't think she ever lied to the cops. I think they tried to pass that off, but I don't know. I don't think she ever lied to the police. I think they wanted her to. They wanted her to lie to the cops. To be with David Warlock. Ooh, she left to be with some other dude. So this will be interesting. Cause yeah, they're a part of this cult. Maybe she's been killed too. I would have assumed they would have seen her at the last break. I would have assumed they would have put eyes on her at the last break. All right, they're coming back in now. They're checking the audios. Audio check 1, 2. In the great state of Idaho, if you're just joining us, we are in the part 2.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Chad Daybell hearing. For the record, on Dad with a Phone. Day 1. This is day 1, part 2.
In State v. Daybell. The court took a brief recess to try and cool it down in here. Mr. Wood, is your witness ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Gibb, if you'll please come forward. You can come here through the gate on this side. Ms. Gibb, if you'll stand here in front of this plexiglass, raise your right arm and face the clerk.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Ms. Gibb, I didn't hear you.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Gibb, you can be seated here at this witness chair. Ms. Gibb, if you'll scoot up to that microphone and then pull it down below your chin and aim it at your chin. Mr. Wood and Mr. Pryor, I think the record isn't picking up your voices as well as it is everybody else's. So if you'll do the same, pull that down and then point it up at your chin, it makes a much better record. If you'll pull it down, Mr. Pryor, and then point it up kind of like this so that you don't talk over it. Mr. Wood, you may inquire when you're ready.
Thank you. Will you state your name and spell it for the record?
Melanie Gibb, G-I-B-B.
Okay. Ms. Gibb, are you familiar with the defendant, Chad Daybell?
Yes,
Approximately when did you meet him?
about 3-4 years ago.
Okay. Do you remember where you met him?
Yes, I was in Morgan, Utah.
Okay. Since you've met him, what is the nature of your relationship?
The nature of our relationship was talking about some of the books that Chad had written and his relationship with Lori.
You mentioned Lori, is that Lori Vallow?
Correct.
Okay. Approximately when did you meet Lori Vallow?
October 2018.
And do you recall where you met her?
Yes, in Mesa, Arizona at a church.
Okay. What was the basis of your relationship with Lori Vallow?
It was based upon things that we talked about, which were spiritual in nature.
Would you call yourself, were you friends with Lori Vallow?
Yes.
Okay. Are you familiar, or do you know if Lori Vallow had any children?
Yes.
Are you familiar with Tylee Ryan?
Yes.
Did you ever meet Tylee Ryan?
Yes.
And did you ever have opportunity to see Tylee Ryan with Lori Vallow?
Yes.
Okay. And was Tylee Ryan Lori Vallow's daughter?
Yes.
Ms. Gibb, when was the last time you saw Tylee Ryan?
July or August of 2019.
Where was that?
In her house in Chandler, Arizona.
Okay. Are you familiar with JJ Vallow?
Yes.
Who is JJ Vallow?
Lori's adopted son.
Okay. When you spent time with Lori, did you have occasion to spend time with JJ at all?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Gibb, I want to call your attention to, well, do you recall where you were between the dates of September 19th, 2019 and September 23rd, 2019?
Yes.
Where were you?
Rexburg, Idaho.
Why were you there?
I was there to visit Lori. I was also there to be at an event called Firm Foundation.
Okay. Do you recall when you arrived in Rexburg?
Thursday, the 19th.
And do you know approximately when you left Rexburg?
Yes, I left Monday, the 23rd, around 9:30 in the morning.
When you were in Rexburg, where did you stay?
In Lori Vallow's house.
Do you recall the address of that house?
No.
Do you recall the general location of that house?
It was a townhome. I don't know the name of the street.
Okay. Was that townhome located in Rexburg, Idaho?
Yes.
During that weekend, did you have opportunity to spend time with Lori?
Yes.
Okay. About how much time did you spend with Lori that weekend?
Most of the time, except for on Saturday, I spent most of the day, about 10 hours up the street at that event.
Okay. When you were at Lori Vallow's house, did you ever have occasion to see Chad Daybell there?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall approximately how many times you saw him there that weekend?
2, 3, 4 times maybe.
Okay, so you don't recall an exact number?
Not an exact number, but
Okay.
I think every day. I think every day is probably, except for the Monday.
Okay, and it was Monday, September 23rd?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have occasion to witness Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell interact with each other?
Yes.
How did they interact with each other?
Affectionately.
Okay, and when you say affectionately, what do you mean by that?
Holding hands, hugging, light kissing.
Okay. Did you ever have occasion to speak with, when you were, during this approximately 4-day period in September, did you ever have occasion to speak with Lori Vallow about the nature of her relationship with Chad Daybell?
Yes, we talked about it often.
Okay. What did she tell you about that relationship?
that they were very much in love with each other and wanted to be together as soon as possible.
Okay, and did you ever speak with Mr. Daybell about that relationship?
Most likely, but I can't recall the exact words.
Okay. Ms. Gibb, during that September 19th to 23rd, 2019 period, did you ever see Tylee Ryan?
No,
Did you speak with Lori Vallow about the location of Tylee Ryan?
she informed me that Tylee was at BYU, Idaho, and mentioned something about being with friends.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
When you were, during that same period, did you have occasion to see JJ Vallow?
Yes,
Where was he located when you saw him?
he was in the family room mostly, and then outside some.
Okay, when you say the family room, can you be more specific?
The room that's adjacent to the kitchen,
Okay, and what home was that located in?
Lori Ballow's home.
Ms. Gibb, I want to call your attention to the night of September 22nd, 2019. Do you recall what you did that night?
Ms. Gibb, you're facing the state. I'm going to invite you to turn your chair just a little bit so that I can
This way?
see
Oh, this way?
this way, so that I can see your face as you're speaking. I recognize you're answering Mr. Wood's questions, but I need to see your face as well as you're answering.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What did you do the night of September 22nd, 2019?
The night of the 22nd, I was doing a recording with Lori and David Warwick, and we were in the kitchen recording that.
Who is David Warwick?
He is a boyfriend of mine.
Okay. And you said you were recording a podcast?
Yes.
Okay. Was Mr. Daybell there during the recording of that podcast?
No.
Okay. Do you recall if JJ Vallow was there during the recording of that podcast?
I did not see him.
Did you see Alex Cox that night?
Yes.
Okay. What did you witness, or what did you observe Alex Cox doing that night?
He brought JJ into the house during the middle of the podcast.
Okay. And did you see him bring JJ into the house?
Yes.
Okay. How did Alex Cox bring JJ into the house?
He carried him in,
Okay.
and he was asleep.
And Judge, this may have occurred, but I'm trying to get a foundation as to the time again. I may have missed it, and I apologize if I missed it.
Mr. Breyer, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Do you mind pulling your microphone down and then aiming it up at your chin? So, there you go. Repeat that one more time.
Judge, I missed the time, and I can't recall which time she said, if she did, when that occurred with Alex bringing the baby in. I don't recall.
All right.
I'll lay more foundation, Your Honor.
I didn't know if you did or not. I thought I may have missed it.
Please do.
Ms. Gibb, do you recall about what time Alex Cox brought JJ back into to Lori Vallow's home?
I can say we recorded the podcast between 9 and after midnight, a little after midnight. So someone in between that time.
Okay. You don't remember the exact hour?
I don't.
Okay. I'm going to call your attention to the morning of September 23rd, 2019. What did you do during the morning of September 23rd, 2019?
Upon awakening, I got ready for the day and came downstairs, had a brief conversation with Lori Vallow, and then got into the truck with David, and we drove off to Pocatello.
Okay. What was your conversation? Do you recall the content of your conversation with Lori Vallow that morning?
Yes.
And do you recall approximately what time you had this conversation with Lori Vallow?
Sometime between 8 and 9.
Okay. What did you speak about with Ms. Vallow that morning?
She shared with David and I that JJ was acting with a lot of energy and I'm trying to remember the words, but she recalled him climbing upon the refrigerator, knocking a picture down of Jesus, she said, and then climbing up upon the cabinets.
Okay. And did you see JJ that morning?
No,
Do you know if he was in the house that morning?
no,
Okay. And do you have any idea of where he was that morning?
no.
Okay. Over the course of that weekend, did you ever have a conversation with Lori Vallow about Kay Woodcock?
Yes,
What was the nature of that? Do you remember when during that weekend you had that conversation?
Friday, Saturday, it could have been
Okay.
several of the days, I'm not sure.
What was the nature of that conversation?
She was expressing that she wanted JJ to go live with Kay, and she expressed different solutions. He could either stay with Kay, or I believe a son of Kay's that had a family already that JJ was comfortable with, or that they liked JJ and it was a good match. I think they had a little girl, and she said that she would express to Kay that that she was sick or something was wrong with her, so that she could live with him.
So that who could live with?
JJ could live with Kay.
Okay. And at any time after that weekend, did you ever have a follow-up conversation in regards to that subject?
Yes,
Do you remember approximately when you had that follow-up conversation?
it was shortly after, I can't recall.
What was the nature of that follow-up conversation?
I asked how it went, giving JJ to Kay. She told me that they met up in an airport, and she told Kay that she had breast cancer and that she would need help with JJ for a period of time, and she said it went well.
Okay. So was it your understanding after that conversation that JJ Vallow was located with Kay Woodcock?
Yes,
And had you ever met Kay Woodcock?
briefly.
When?
The time that Charles Vallow was moving out of his house in Arizona to Texas,
And who was Charles Vallow?
Lori's husband.
Okay. Ms. Gibb, I'm going to call your attention to the date of November 26, 2019. Do you recall where you were on November 26, 2019?
I do.
Where were you?
I was in Pleasant Grove, Utah, in David Warwick's home.
Okay. Now, do you live in Utah?
No,
Where do you normally live?
Gilbert, Arizona.
Okay. And so were you visiting Mr. Warwick that day?
Yes.
Did anything significant happen that day in regards to Chad Daybell?
Yes.
Okay. What contact, if any, did you have with Mr. Daybell that day?
I received a phone call from Chad Daybell from his cell phone to my cell phone, and I answered the phone call.
Okay. And do you recall approximately what time it was?
Late morning.
And you said you got a call from his cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know it was his cell phone?
Because when the phone number came up, it had his name on it.
Okay. And was that a contact you had previously stored in your cell phone?
Yes.
And was Ms. Gibb, had you previously had any discussions with Mr. Daybell through that same phone number?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall what that phone number was?
Yes, it was 208-690-9374.
And I may have already asked this, I apologize if I did. Approximately what time were you called by Mr. Daybell that day?
Late morning.
Okay. What was the nature of that conversation?
He said, "Hi, Melanie, this is Chad. The Rexburg police are going to call you. Don't pick up." He
Okay.
said,
Where did the conversation go from there?
he let me know that the police were over at Lori Vallow's home in Rexburg, and that they were inquiring about where JJ was, and that she was going to tell the police that JJ was with me.
Okay, how did you respond?
In shock, and I can't recall if I said anything at that moment. Oh, I did say after the shock, I said, "JJ's not at Kay's house."
And how did Mr. Daybell respond to that?
He said, "No."
Okay. Was there any other content to that conversation?
I asked him if he was nervous, and he said yes.
Was anything else said?
I can't recall.
That same day, November 26, 2019, did you have any contact with Lori Vallow?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember approximately where you were when you heard from Lori Vallow?
Yes, I was in the same place. And
Okay, and where was that again?
that was in Utah, in David's home.
And approximately what time did you hear from Lieutenant Vallow, Lori Vallow?
I possibly within an hour or two, I can't exactly recall.
Okay. And when you say an hour or two, what is that in reference to?
Her calling me, Lori calling me.
Right, was it an hour or two after what?
I'm sorry, Chad's phone call.
Okay. What was the nature of that conversation?
When I picked up, she said, "Hi, Melanie, this is," well, she probably didn't say her name, but she said, "Just want to let you know everything's fine." She was upbeat, cheery, acting like nothing was wrong.
What happened after that?
She told me that the police had been there asking for JJ, and that she told the police that I had JJ, that I was at a movie called Frozen, that she asked me just to pick up my phone and take a picture, a random picture of kids running around, and that she would come by and pick him up, and then, no, I'm sorry, that after me driving home from Utah to Arizona, that she would come and get him later that week.
I'm going to stop right there, Gibb. I'm going to point you back to this conversation or the statement about picking up your phone.
Mhm.
What did she ask you to do with that again?
Take a picture of random kids to make it look like it was JJ.
Okay. And I kind of lost track. I apologize.
That's okay.
You said something about driving down to Arizona. What was that part of the conversation? Who said what?
So she knew that I was going down to Arizona for Thanksgiving, back to my home. And she said that she told the police that she was going to pick him up from my house from Arizona, which I had no previous knowledge to this. This was new information to me.
Okay. Did Lori say anything else to you about JJ?
I can't recall exactly, but I can recall what she talked about Kay.
Okay. What did she say about Kay?
She said that Kay was trying to kidnap JJ. And I said, how do you know? And she said, well, I've received emails, being threatened that was that he was going to kidnap her. I said, well, what does she say? And she said, well, she sent me emails, and she said, she quoted Kay saying, it's not like I'm going to kidnap him or anything. And that she was trying to protect JJ and from her and other people, not just Kay, but possibly family members as well.
Okay. And you said that to your perception, she seemed upbeat and positive. Were
Yeah.
those the words you used?
Yes.
To your perception, when you spoke with Mr. Daybell that day, how did he sound?
Very nervous.
Is that why you asked him if he was nervous?
Uh-huh.
After receiving these phone calls, how did that make you feel?
Horrible. I felt in shock. I was not okay with it because she told something to the police that was not true, which I had no knowledge of. So I was, I had a really bad feeling in my stomach, and I felt very shooken up by it.
Do you know if the Rexburg police attempted to contact you that day?
They did.
Okay. How did they try to contact you?
They tried calling me, and once I believe they left a text.
Okay. And did you respond to them that day?
Not the Rexburg police, I did not.
Okay. How come? Is there a reason?
Well, first of all, Chad tells me not to answer it, and then Lori tells me that her child is in danger. So I'm not sure what to believe or understand what's going on this time. I'm very confused.
Okay. Did you speak to any law enforcement that day?
Yes.
What interaction did you have? Do you know which law enforcement agency you spoke with that day?
Gilbert Police.
Okay. And do you recall if there was a specific individual you spoke with that day from Gilbert Police?
Officer Ryan Pillar.
I'm sorry, can you say
Officer Ryan Pillar.
Ryan Pillar?
Correct.
And do you know how that last name is spelled?
Pillar, or there could be a Y, so I'm not for sure.
What contact did you have with Officer Pillar that day?
He called me, left a message, and I returned his phone call.
Okay. What was the nature of your conversation with Officer Pillar?
He was responding to the Rexburg police and was asking about JJ and his whereabouts.
Okay. And what did you tell him?
I told him that I had been with JJ, but that he was back with Lori.
Okay. When you said you had been with him, what did you mean by that?
That he was with me, and then she came to get him.
Okay.
So that it would turn the police back to Rexburg and not with me, because yeah.
Now, Ms. Gibb, had you recently had JJ with you?
No.
So when you told Detective Pillar that you had, was that an accurate statement?
No, it was not.
Okay. And did you believe that JJ was actually with Lori at that time?
I was not sure.
Okay. So was that, pursuant to the knowledge you had, was that an accurate statement?
Yeah.
Okay. But did you also tell Detective Pillar that JJ was not with you?
Correct.
And was that an accurate statement?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a reason you told Detective Pillar you had him?
Yes, because Lori was misleading, and she was manipulating me or trying to convince me that he and she was in danger. And so because of our friendship, I thought, I have really no idea if this could be true or not. And I was very perplexed. very troubled, and I really did not know what to do. I was trying to reconcile all these feelings I had.
Okay. Did you have any subsequent contact with the Gilbert Police Department?
Yes,
And do you recall approximately when that was?
I believe it was December 7th or 8th.
Okay. And what contact did you have with the Gilbert Police Department?
I called Officer Pillar and I informed him that who I was and that probably a lot more detail about the conversation about what happened, about JJ and Lori and Chad. And I also had something that I had recorded that I wanted to give to him.
Okay. Let's talk about that. What had you recorded that you wanted to give to Officer Pillar?
I recorded a conversation with Chad and Lori on Chad Daybell's phone, about 21-minute conversation. And that conversation was about where was JJ? The conversation talked about why did you tell the police that I had JJ when I did not? And she explained that. And I also explained to her my concern for her salvation and Chad's, and that they had been very deceived. And I also wanted to make sure that the police knew that I did not have anything to do with this.
Okay. How did you record that conversation?
On a cell phone.
Okay. You mentioned earlier the conversation was with Chad's number.
Correct.
Was that the same number you discussed earlier?
Correct.
And what phone did you use to have this conversation?
My phone, and then I had a recorder phone on David Warwick's, and so I put my phone on speaker, and then I recorded it with his phone.
Okay. Had law enforcement asked you to record a conversation with Mrs. Vallow or Mr. Daybell?
No.
Okay. So this was something you did of your own accord?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember, and maybe you've already answered this, what day you made that recording?
December 8th.
And where were you located when you made that recording?
I was in David Warwick's home.
I'm sorry, where?
I was in David's home.
Oh, okay, David Warwick's home.
Yes.
Okay, I apologize, I misheard you. And again, is that the same home in Pleasant Grove, Utah?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, the state would ask that state's exhibit that is marked as Exhibit 19 be shown to the defense and handed to the witness.
Exhibit 19 is being handed to the witness.
Ms. Gibb, do you recognize the state's Exhibit 19?
Yes.
Have you seen it before?
Yes.
Have you reviewed the contents of that disc?
Yes.
And when did you review the contents of that disc?
Yesterday.
Okay. And what is on that disc?
It's the exact conversation that I recorded on my phone.
Okay, and is that the same conversation you shared with law enforcement?
Yes.
And was it Detective Pillar that you shared that with?
Yes.
Okay. And the recording on that disc, is it a true and accurate representation of the original recording you made?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, the state would ask that State's Exhibit 19 be entered into evidence.
No objection.
Exhibit 19 will be admitted.
Your Honor, the state would request that Exhibit 19 be published.
Would you like to publish that on the screen here that's hanging on the wall?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is there video and audio or just audio?
Just audio.
Miss Warwick, or excuse me, Miss Gibb, if you'll hand that exhibit to Madam Bailiff.
Okay, kids, this is gonna go good. It's gonna take them a second to get that thing up there, but we about to be taken into a deep dark hole. It's gonna be
Madam Bailiff, was there another
interesting.
disc in there? Will you please hand that disc to Mr. Wood so that he can identify it and we can make sure that that gets put into evidence?
Your Honor, that is State's Exhibit 14. It's no longer in the case with the marker.
Okay.
Your Honor, would you like me to hand this to the bailiff or?
Yes, please hand it to the bailiff. Madam Bailiff, do you have the envelope that shows, okay, Exhibit 14? All right, and Madam Bailiff, or Mr. Wood, the disc that has been placed in the television at this point is Exhibit 19, is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
You're moving to publish that?
Yes.
Mr. Pryor, any objection to publishing Exhibit 19?
No objection, Judge. Thank you.
You may proceed, Mr. Wood.
Thank you. Your Honor, we seem to be having similar problems earlier.
I think it's a really good time for a break. It's getting extremely hot in here again. We'll take 15 minutes so we can cool it down in here, and we'll reconvene here in 15.
Ain't that the crap? That's a teaser, kids. Judge is building his YouTube channel up. Y'all need to share this video right now. That's an opportunity for you to go use the restroom, eat dinner. I just ate dinner during that last section. And get the popcorn pop, because this is way more info than we expected. We are now 5.5+ hours into the preliminary hearing. This is in magistrate court. This isn't in district court. This is in magistrate court, just to see if there's enough probable cause to take Chad Daybell to trial. And they're about to play an audio recording that he didn't know was being recorded. And he's explaining to this woman why they were telling all these deep, dark, cloak and dagger secrets to each other, trying to get her to cover this up. Now, we have heard bits and pieces. We have heard different accounts of this story from this woman, but now we actually get to hear the recording with Chad and Lori Daybell explaining to her why they wanted her to lie. How are the kids? We'll get to see, was she concerned about the kids? We'll get to see if they lend any sort of idea to what had happened to the kids. Oh, yeah. They're laying it out now so that Lori Vallow Daybell knows exactly what's coming at her. Do you think, I wonder if they knew about this recording? There was no objection to this recording. So, in my opinion, I feel like they must have known about this recording, and it wasn't like his jaw dropped. I don't think they're going to give him a plea. He's going to plead not guilty, and they're going to take it to trial. Oh, you think they were going to try to pin the murder on her? I don't think so. I think they had Alex. I think they had Alex all along to pin murders on. I think that Alex set himself up as the assassin. But this recording is going to give us a lot of info, because who's driving the story? Who's driving the conversation? Who's driving it? So we're going to see what this is before Hawaii. Remember, this is before Hawaii. Before they moved out. It's gonna the cool thing about the recording, hopefully they didn't know they were being recorded. One, hopefully this isn't a setup. Two, I think it's to clear this lady's name. She wanted to clear her name of anything. And so even if there was conversations in the past, even if she had conversations and she was starting to think something was up, this recording was for her to try to help clear her name, obviously to go to the cops with something. And so it'll be real interesting because she lied to the cops. So she does this recording to try to clear her name up. And so I understand the motive behind this recording, because she's now admitting, obviously, that she lied to the cops, which is a great thing, because you're under oath now saying, yeah, I lied to the cops. No worries. You admitted to it. You're good. She made this recording to cover her tracks, not in a sense to cover up the lie, but to say, listen, I lied to you. I was scared. I didn't know what the hell was going on. Listen, I recorded this. Don't come after me. So she's been, and then what's interesting though, what's real interesting is that that they didn't tell her not to talk. Like they didn't go to her, and they can't really gag order them, but they could have asked her not to do interviews with Dateline, not to do interviews um with the East Idaho News, especially in a criminal investigation. They could have easily said, listen, you've lied to us. You better not go do any more interviews, but to me, it almost, oh man, it almost sounds like she's playing it hard, and I'm wondering if she's playing it hard because she had involvement, or if she's playing it hard because she's naive and just ignorant, to what was going on. But there's little indications that, she's working extra double time if she's making recordings and giving recordings to law enforcement. We're on part 4 over at East Idaho. Dude, I've been going 3.5 hours strong. They must be breaking theirs down, not doing any commentating in between. Thank you for sticking it out with Dad with a phone for this 3.5 hours straight live after lunch. In the Chad Daybell preliminary hearing, we've had 1, 2, 3, we're on our fourth witness right now, and this is Melanie Gibb, and she just dropped a bombshell. What he was doing all of that time, asking about recording, asking about all that, he was setting that foundational ground. When? Where were you? How did you do this? What time did you record this? Did they know this recording was going to be used, take place? Didn't, all of that? Did the cops ask you to make this recording? That was a very important question, and she said, no, 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 I did all of this. And so, it is what it is. Smash that share button right there for sure. 3.5 hours straight, nonstop coverage of the Chad Daybell polemic. If this hearing's been going on for 5.5 plus hours, it is that's setting up for a 4-week trial. You got to understand that when they put those officers on the stand in trial, that they could be testifying for 2 straight days about this case. So the 2.5 hour testimony that we heard this morning from officers is not even a fraction of how those officers will testify in the trial in front of a jury. And we're talking, they're going to dive deeper and deeper, even though it seems like they've told us this whole story. Since the jury doesn't get this story, it's got to be told again at trial, which is going to make it fun and interesting if they end up televising the trial. So I'll be right back. Y'all play nice. Don't hurt each other. I'm not going anywhere. We're going to stay live. I'm going to run, fill my drink. Check it. Hey! Man, we have a storm rolling in, so I decided to come out on the porch for a little bit, look at the sun go down and the rain come down, and it looks like there's a storm about to crack open, going down in the courtroom of the Chad Daybell preliminary hearing. If you're just joining us, it looks like we're going to get a audio recording that was taken of Lori and Chad Daybell with this Melanie Gibb lady trying to figure out why they wanted her to lie, why they wanted her to tell stories, all this stuff. So should be an interesting evening to court. I would have thought for sure we were not going to get this much info. There was no way. Am I still on mute? Can y'all hear me? I don't know if y'all can hear me. I don't know why my video would cut out at 4 hours. Who's gonna cut me out? The Facebook? Probably, maybe. I probably should kick it off. Oh, that's the Pro Stream audio. I want my Yeti. Oh, my. Can y'all hear me? I don't know if y'all can hear me. I hear you fine, they said. Sweet. Maybe you can hear me. I just wonder which audio. Yeah, it's my Yeti working sweet. All right. Sorry about that. I move crap around. I don't think I'm going to get cut at 4. Am I going to get cut at 4? Who thinks I'm getting cut at 4? Yeah, limits to 4 hours. Oh, usually cuts at 4. All right. Hey, we'll be back on right now. Come back. Boom. Hit that snap, child. It's going to be 2 seconds. I'm back on then because I am about to get stopped.